All right. Hi, everyone, and welcome to the August workshop meeting of the Springfield Township Board of Commissioners. We have almost a full quorum. We are missing Commissioner Goldberg, who had somewhere else to be today. How many Zoom attendees do we have? Thank you for attending via Zoom. Just a reminder for our Zoom attendees, you will not be able to submit comments or chat on Zoom. Let's see here. No holidays, I suppose. Happy summer to everyone. Today we will have a presentation after our engineer's report by Mr. John Urick, who will be presenting an update on the Cheltenham corridor study, which has been ongoing since public comment started late last year. Just a little housekeeping for those who have not been here before. We will typically begin with our engineer's report, Mr. Woodrow. Then we'll tackle our presentations, matters people are present here, are present for. First, those pertaining to agenda items, then any remaining public comments if you have them. Then we'll proceed through our commissioner committee reports and then the formal agenda. I've already taken a quick poll of everyone in this room, and we have folks here to discuss the Bridge Church project, of course, Cheltenham corridor study, Walnut Ave, a skate park, and solar panels. Are there any other topics that someone is here for I did not mention? All right. Next step is, do we have any public comments prior to this meeting?
Yeah, we have 3 public comments. We all needed to say skate park and building park, all of those.
All right. Thank you. And again, a reminder for those on Zoom, you cannot submit public comment online, but you may submit formal public comment prior to any meeting, including the one on Wednesday. The link can be found on the agenda page. With that, we're going to move to the engineer's report, and I welcome Mr. Woodrow to the floor. For those who told me what you're here for, Tim will also be addressing the Bridge Church at Walnut Ave as well.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Yes, good evening. Just a couple of updates, maybe first to start off this evening. Our Terminal Avenue Storm Sewer Improvement Project is coming along pretty nicely. We've got about a week of physical pipe installation. After that, obviously some restoration of the trenches and some final paving, but the majority of the work is underway and nearing completion. So that went a little more smoothly than I feared with a lot of existing utilities in the road. We were fearful that we would have some conflicts, but they seem to be avoided and everything's working out pretty well. So knock on wood, we'll finish up this week and the next week and be in pretty good shape. Over at the Towns at Pennybrook, our walking trail through Houston Woods. It's paved, it's pretty complete, it's looking pretty good. So we are connected from our park to the school, out to Halls Lane. So it's looking like a pretty good project. They obviously have some landscaping, some raking and seeding and kind of things to do, but the trail itself is in, and I think that worked out pretty well. That alignment worked out nicely.
Can the public right now walk from Halls to?
They can. Yes.
Yeah, we're finalizing the agreement with the school district for access, public access to the school property. But that's the deal where the school board of directors agenda this month. Physically possible.
Yeah. Well, yeah. It's not pardoned off or anything. And there will be some periods of time, I am sure, when they're doing the landscaping work where we'll have to block it off. But yeah, essentially open and free passage for sure. Great.
On that project, do we know, even though they did the installation, the general cost or the value of that installation? What can we find out?
I do. Off the top of my head, I don't. But if that's something you guys are interested in, I'll email you guys in the morning with what that cost was. We had a line item in our escrow budget for that work. So if we have it around, Susie, for sure.
Thank you.
Next on the hit parade is a little discussion about the Bridge Community Church, 317 Orland Mill Road. Recall that this is an application to draw a property line subdividing the parsonage from the balance of campus. There was a slight side yard violation, so zoning hearing board gave a variance for side yard setback. Once the new lot line is created, that will allow this subdivision to proceed. I've done a review, or planning commission has done a review. It's looking like a pretty clean plan. There are a number of waivers. The vast majority of those waivers really deal with our code anticipating future construction versus just a simple creation of a lot line. So the vast majority of those waivers are certainly warranted and staff is in support of granting those waivers. One that we should talk about a bit is our ordinance requires, in conjunction with the subdivision application, the board has the ability to require sidewalk be installed along the subdivision application parcel of frontage. That is a waiver the applicant is seeking tonight. And so as Andy starts to prepare a consideration, a resolution of approval, I think the board may want to discuss a bit whether that waiver is warranted for sidewalk along the property frontage and whether there is something else the board may envision as a solution.
Pat, do you want to speak to it?
Sure, Susie and I were on the planning commission meeting when it came up, and having had a chance to talk to the kind of folks from the church. There seemed to be a consensus that it might make sense, not to necessarily waive the requirement, but at least to defer, especially given that is an area that this board has talked about, in terms of connectivity, in terms of the lack of sidewalks there that we turn it off. So I think the feeling is, the planning commission level and speak certainly for itself, usually that, the feeling would be to allow the folks to prefer that, at least until, this board ultimately someday, if it were to require, sidewalks in that area, that would be something to come back to. I mean, within the framework of the policy, but not required to meet. Would that include the partial that to be shown?
Okay, sure.
Yeah. Good evening. My name's Sean Duffy, attorney with Overmeyer here on behalf of Bridge Community Church. We have the project engineer here as well. And we acknowledge the conversation at the planning commission in regard to the deferral, and that's an approach that we're willing to undertake. I think to the extent that it deals with the residential component, we prefer that component would be just a straight waiver and then a deferral for the component that runs along the balance of the property for the church itself.
Why would that?
Well, I think it's different when you look at certainly like in terms of traditional subdivision and land development in areas where there's much more land to be developed. I think at this point, it's kind of a sidewalk to nowhere that this area of the township is already developed out. There's really no prospect that you're going to see in the future where there's going to be additional connectivity via sidewalk in that particular area of the township. Yeah, and I'll also say, so I think it's also constructive, just sort of the background. So Bridge Community Church has been in operation since 2006, so 20 years. During that time, they were renting out various pieces of property in Glenside and Elkins Park, in Cheltenham. Coming out of the pandemic, they were looking for a place that they could call their own home. They raised enough money, found this location, were able to purchase it, and they're, all that money, it's obviously not a for-profit business, so that money goes back into the congregation, goes back into the community. And I think from just a cost perspective, at least for that piece, consideration from the board, at least they could consider that as it's something that we're kind of benefiting the community, and that it wouldn't be too much of a burden on the church that they would eventually have to provide. Obviously with costs skyrocketing with inflation down the road, how much that would cost is kind of difficult. And that's one of the reasons they're subdividing this portion and selling off so they can take that money, kind of put it back into the church and update it. Obviously this, I think it was last in operation since back in 2016 when it was a church then. So that would be our request.
Yeah,
But
so I appreciate that. And I guess just to be clear, so the parcel that's being partitioned off, the church would potentially would be to sell it off.
that's correct.
Yeah, I mean, I guess the concern that I have is, what if we were to want to leave some sort of sidewalk in that area, particularly, and we're going to talk about it later tonight, with respect to trail connectivity. I'd be concerned that this board may reach the possibility of talking to that future homeowner about, hey, we think this, in connection with whatever we're trying to do as part of a larger plan, that we might use the possibility to require that there be a sidewalk, especially if, I mean, look, we might be looking at Marion Avenue and saying, look, we're gonna put a sidewalk in that block. I'd be concerned that we've had one parcel of land where we've waived that in perpetuity, so I can't speak for the rest of the board, I think I would not be.
Yeah, I would agree, but I would also not agree with such. But I should see. But it wouldn't be a burden on the church, I think, it's.
Yeah, that's
The
correct.
church is accepting the burden of potentially doing this.
Yeah,
So once
that's,
that's solved, that is the burden of the homeowner. And I think it's important to do that, I mean, advise that company.
Just like with.
Yeah,
just
that's
like with
correct.
anyone else in the county.
Right, anyone
Yeah.
else finding over the community.
Yeah.
But because it is a recent issue, and I think that would be recorded in the deed, right?
I think the
It would-
deferral would be a plan.
plan, yeah,
So
a
it would
note
be a
on the
record
plan.
Right, but the waiver, on the other hand, would that one would be? If a waiver were given.
If the waiver were given, I think the property owner could take the position that it's been waived forever. So that's the reason why, many municipalities will treat them as a referral as opposed to a waiver to avoid the risk that somebody in the future says we've waived it forever. You can't
Yes, so it's
retire
not an
something.
additional financial burden to church.
Correct.
Or is it an additional burden to the homeowner, they would have that burden anywhere they want. If it was.
Mhm. Correct.
At this, by the way, this is tab A for everyone following along. I would suggest, it seems here we need, as a condition of the subdivision approval, a staff recommendation that we have the dedicated, required public right of way, so do that at this time. And I would agree that a deferral, is reasonable, seeing as right now installing a sidewalk anyways would be a sidewalk to nowhere at this time. But of course, we recognize that we eventually want to create some connectivity there, especially given Kiramonte's right there. And obviously you want to provide that for your
Correct.
patrons who are
Mhm.
going to be parking at the lot adjacent to Kiramonte's. So I think that's forthcoming. I think a deferral is appropriate. Is anyone opposed or have any other suggestion? Sure.
Well, is the
Yeah,
plan offer dedication of the right of way to the township?
yes, the revision of the plan, yeah, so,
Okay.
yeah, we revised it.
Okay.
And then just to clarify, I think you were talking about the park, so the parking lot portion is not a part of this application.
Got it. All right. Anything else from our engineer or anything else from anyone on this matter? All right. That's our decision. All right, Tim, come on back.
Thank
So
you.
you'll have an approval resolution that you'll consider on like baby. I think it's baby's good.
Working on, finalized now that we've had some detail on the sidewalk.
All right. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you.
So as you know, we've been working very diligently on our rec center. I think we are to the point where our efforts on rec center are in pretty good shape. Architects are moving ahead with some design stuff, but I think we are now in a position to start looking at our next township project, 1725 Walnut Tank Car property. Oh, Mike and I have been discussing the first steps in renovating that property. There are two things we'd like to do in the near future. First is an abatement project to get rid of the asbestos and other contaminants that are on the property. And the second is the demolition of those structures on the property. And so I got some bid specs that are kind of roughed up, but looking for a board's authorization on Wednesday night to officially allow us to advertise for bids for two separate and distinct projects, one for the abatement of the asbestos and the second for the demolition of the structures on the property. And so I think it's a good step forward. I just hear you answer any questions or any thoughts that people might have regarding the tank car redevelopment.
I think it's good for you. That would be springtime, a little bit more.
Hopeful that if we get authorization this evening, we could advertise next, month or so and start that abatement project later this fall and demo over the winter. Yes.
And then that was part of the
Yes.
grading plan.
So then step three would be the redevelopment of the property, trying to facilitate the envisioned improvements that are on our 3D model out in the hallway. And I think what we've discussed is doing a plan, a design that would accommodate all of those improvements so that our permit for the project would capture all that and anything else we would envision during that process, but then have the ability to build that out in phases, as we see fit, as one project more important than the other. Maybe a walking trail connection to the Walnut Avenue walking trail might be a good first step. Some landscaping, some buffering kind of things would be a good phase one for that project, I would suspect.
Is the abatement and demolition two separate projects?
Yeah, Jim, in my mind, I think I would be more efficient to do it in two separate projects, only because the demolition contractor is going to subcontract out to the abatement contractor. And so we'd be paying a markup on that effort, I'm thinking. So separating it, I think should save us some.
Would you, do you envision that we run that concurrently?
I do. Yes,
Because there's nothing that says that somebody might not partner with one another.
Absolutely.
On the scale for a demo contractor that's gonna have equipment on site for like abatement.
Yep.
Take advantage of that. So,
absolutely.
just so you have-
I plan to advertise them at the same time and, if they want to work together, great, but I would like the opportunity to award them to two separate contractors.
I would be keen to get the bids out as soon as possible. Do you have an estimate of when we would need to reconvene our Walnut Ave steering committee for an update?
Good question. Susie, I don't see any reason why we wouldn't do that now. We've got the survey 99% complete, so that's all updated and ready to go. Armed with that information, I think we can talk about the project that we envision as a community, compared to the 3D model in the hall. Is that what we want to pursue, or something less, something more? So I think that steering committee would be good to reconvene in
As soon
September.
as it makes sense. All right,
Yeah.
great. We have some folks I know in the audience here for this project. If anyone has any questions that for our engineer, now would be a great time before he's dismissed. To the mic. Sorry, Gary.
Sort of answered one of the questions. My name is Gary Orland. Question I have is, sounds like the project would happen maybe in the winter. I think the winter would be better because everybody's windows are closed. There's no concerns about that at all. So I'd like to see it happen in the winter rather than the spring. There's also animals living over there, whether anybody believes it. There's cats, there's mice, and heaven knows what else is over there.
I believe-
Now, would there be anybody going over there before the buildings start coming down to maybe alleviate some of the livestock that's over there?
We would have. Demolition. Rodent, yeah.
Yeah, the answer is yes.
Inspection.
Okay,
Inspection and if they observe anything.
Similar to, Enfield thing.
Yeah.
okay.
And then we put down any of those, by the moment, that it's gonna be right.
Now, when the buildings come down, is the township responsible for fencing it in, or would the person that gets the bid be responsible for putting fence around where you said the main hangar is basically free fencing? Well, once that comes down, there is no more fencing, and the dirt is not going to be bothered, I think, during any of this, correct? The piles?
Correct.
Okay. The other concern I would have is when they start, well, I know we're not there yet, but eventually that dirt's going to have to be moved. When dirt is moved, it creates dust. When dust happens, the west winds, which we have over there, go down our street, hit the back of Orleman and the front of Walnut. So I was wondering, what's going to be done to help keep the dust down? There was another project done there. I wasn't too happy with the way of keeping the dirt down, because what ended up happening is I was going to come over to Township, like most of the residents would have probably, and said, look, my house wasn't filthy like it is now from all this dirt and dust. So why shouldn't the township be responsible to power wash the part that's exposed to that area. When the EPA came in, they took all that dirt out of there, put all new dirt down, and at the end of it all, they paid for power washing of our homes. I think that's the least, and somebody needs to do that for us. Okay, so just some thoughts. But I'd like to see the project done in winter because there's less impact. The windows are down. Nobody has their windows up and watching everything come in their windows. I'm done.
Thank you for your notes. Appreciate it. All right, if that's what we have on warrant, do you have any other topics?
Barring any questions, that's what I had this evening, guys.
Mhm. Any questions for our engineer? I'll look at that one. Any other questions? All right. Thank
Great,
you
guys.
so much, Mr. Woodrow. You are free.
Have a
to-
good rest of your.
to leave. Thank you so much. All right, up next is going to be our presentation on the Cheltenham Corridor Study by Mr. John Urich. After the presentation, we'll tackle the other topics listed.
Good evening. Thank you for having me. I'm here as was discussed to present the corridor feasibility study for Cheltenham Avenue. This is a project that was funded through a grant from the Delaware Valley Regional Planning Commission. The sponsor was Montgomery County. So we've been working with them alongside Springfield Township and Cheltenham Township. We've had some stakeholders in the process as well, including the city of Philadelphia, PennDOT, and SEPTA. And we've been working through the process as well with some key stakeholders along the corridor as well. So this project was a feasibility study. You can do the next slide. Okay, thanks. To evaluate possible reconfigurations to Cheltenham Avenue to address safety, as well as expand accommodations for pedestrians and bicyclists and transit users and reduce speeding and aggressive driving. So what this study is not, it's not a final engineering study. This is a planning study. We're basically looking at, can this be done? Is it appropriate for Cheltenham Avenue? So, nobody's going to go out and make these changes tomorrow. There's going to be further engineering, detailed engineering studies and plans developed, and further approvals needed from PennDOT and other agencies. So, just kind of give you a sense of where we're at with this process. We're at the very beginning. And part of the project, we went out and solicited a lot of feedback from the community. Next slide. We had an online engagement phase open for several months. So people could go to Monco Engage website. We had an online survey and a mapping tool. We had 2 community meetings, one here back at the end of May. We had one over in the city in April. And then this is our second public presentation. We've also had, as part of the coordination with some of the stakeholders and steering committee, we also had separate meetings with them. So with the online survey, we had great response. We had, between the survey and the mapping submissions, we had over 700 submissions. We got a lot of great feedback, learned a lot of ins and outs, some of the things that the data didn't tell us. But I will brag a little bit. I've been driving this corridor since 1990-ish, when I was going to high school at LaSalle High School. Some of you mentioned, I have mentioned that previously. So I know the corridor pretty well. I know the ins and outs. And, coming back all these years later, studying it, a lot has remained the same. A lot of the patterns are the same. There's been some changes, but, it's very similar to what it was back in the day. I can say that now, feel old. But a lot of the feedback that we got from the community supported some of the things that I knew, some of the things that data was telling us, but it also gave us a lot of other insights that we didn't know. So we've been working, synthesizing all that feedback and incorporating it into our alternatives. Yes.
Now, can you explain what the mapping solutions are?
Sure. So the survey was just a basic question and answer, give us your response. And then there was an element where you could go in and click on a map to a specific location and basically pin it and give us a specific detailed comment has a location associated with it. So, and as you can see from the little map on the side of the slide here, those are zip codes, and basically, the darker the shaded zip code is, the more response we got from that zip code. So we got a lot along the corridor, a little bit further spread out, but that's not a surprise given kind of how Cheltenham Avenue is used in the region. So next one. So some of the key takeaways that we received were that basically people agree that speeding's a problem, some aggressive driving were some of the main concerns, pedestrian safety, trying to walk along the corridor where there's no sidewalk, or just crossing Cheltenham Avenue, given the number of lanes, the high-speed traffic, the amount of traffic. And then there were also issues with congestion at certain locations, lack of good accommodations for bicyclists as well as transit users. So we got a whole lot of feedback on different types of people that are using Cheltenham Avenue today. It's just not the motorist. And all in all, we did kind of poll, was there support for changing Cheltenham Avenue? And change can be scary, but the respondents all said, yes, we need change. We need something to happen. So that was good. They also identified a few priority locations and intersections that we tried to hone in on and develop and take a closer look and develop some specific intersection improvements as well as what might happen along the cross section of the corridor. So next one. So some of those potential alternatives, we were looking to, with those improvements, to reduce the speeds and kind of slow traffic down. One of the issues raised was, with the existing 4-lane section, there's no left turn lanes along sections of the corridor. So people stop in that inner lane. It's a safety issue. It's a congestion issue. So we're looking to address that with the study improvements. And of course, improve the pedestrian experience, look to see if we can't provide bicycle facilities, as well as, making bus stops safer and just improving the overall quality of the corridor. Next. So one of the things the county did ask us to look at was a 3-lane cross section. Sometimes it's referred to as a road diet. It's similar to what was done on Flowertown Pike. And some of those benefits address a lot of the concerns and issues that we see and we're hearing for Cheltenham Avenue. Reducing crashes, reducing speeds, improving the overall safety, and you also get you can take a little space from the roadway if you're reducing lanes to provide additional facilities for pedestrians or bicyclists and such. So one of the things FHWA, Federal Highway, they do have a little bit of a guide, and they say, if you have a 4-lane road and they give you certain thresholds of volumes, would a road diet work in that in those conditions? So Cheltenham Avenue and this is our study section, was from Paper Mill Road to Ogons Avenue, that western portion. Those volumes that fit within the parameters of what Federal Highway said, could work for a road diet. So, given that, we dug in and looked at it a little bit more detailed and studied it. And what we were able to find is, projecting traffic in the future, reducing those lanes to a 3-lane cross section, generally the overall corridor is still going to function adequately in terms of, intersection operations, in terms of no major, travel time reductions along the corridor. Travel speeds would come down slightly, but not, nothing like coming to a standstill. So, all that analysis that we ran through, and I'm not going to get into all those details tonight. They'll be in the report. But basically that was all positive in terms of making those changes to the corridor. Excellent. So the corridor, as I said, goes from in the upper left corner, that's Paper Mill Road. The lower right is Ogons Avenue. And today we have basically the existing cross section to the west is our first cross section. We broke it up into 4 segments based on the character of the roads and kind of the existing lane configurations of each. So the existing, we have basically 4 lanes that at the Paper Mill Road intersection that taper back to 3, and then that takes you up towards Ivy Hill Road, where we have, or I'm sorry, it takes you up to basically towards Willow Grove Avenue. That's mislabeled. That's 3-lane cross section. That's purple. Should read 4-lane cross section. So that's a 4-lane cross section that switches into a 5-lane cross section that drops back down to a 3-lane cross section. So you can see the variation of the corridor, but so we're going to try to address that with our recommendations as well. So excellent. So this is just a visual picture of the cross section. You can see the lanes on the right for each cross section. Again, the 3, the 4, the 5, and then the 3. So one of the future possible roadway configurations is the road diet or 3-lane cross section throughout. And basically what would happen would be at Paper Mill Road, we'd still have that initial 4-lane cross section, but it would go to the 3-lane cross section and then switch to as you basically approach LaSalle High School driveway. Before you get to that, it would have a center left turn lane and a lane in each direction. And that would basically continue down through Ogons Avenue to 309. And then it would, open up when you got past there. So you can see in the 3 or on the right side, those lane configurations, you can see basically the shoulder, we have a little bit varying room to work with. So what we're in the process of working with the county and the city and municipalities is to kind of figure out how that space could be used. So we have some, and I'll show you some ideas about, bike lanes, or it could be used for, bus stop, enhanced bus stops and that sort of thing. So I'll have some graphics of that coming up. And then the next corridor is what we call a hybrid section. Basically, it's a 3-lane cross section, but it would open up and remain basically from Easton Road down to Vernon Road just before you get to the existing 3-lane cross section. That would continue to be a 5-lane cross section. That's the widest it is today. It does take a lot of traffic coming off of Easton Road. So although the 3-lane cross section would work from a traffic movement perspective of traffic operations, this just is an alternate configuration. If things get a little tight there, people don't want to do the road diet through that, or it becomes, the challenge. This is an alternative configuration that we could employ. So this is one of the configurations that the city was looking at and provided some feedback to us. So this is from Delphine Road to Ivy Hill Road. So basically they're showing a separated bike lane on one side of the roadway, 2-directional. So on the top section, it's a lower cost alternative. And the bottom is a high cost. And basically the difference is the low cost is striping with some flexible bollards. And the higher cost would be, curbing and, potentially moving the street lighting in as well. So we have the space to work with. And basically looking at the volumes and the speeds along Cheltenham Avenue, the appropriate accommodation would be to provide some kind of separation on the bike lane. It's not just, restriping the shoulder for one of those bike lanes or the green bike lanes. Given the, the level, the volume level and the speeds, it's really appropriate to provide some kind of separation for the bicyclists. So next one. So this is just, moving eastward along the section, and then similar configuration, just a little bit wider, a little bit more space, potentially having some area for parking or bus stops on that wider section. And basically, through this study, we're generally looking to keep the road reconfiguration within the curbs today. We're not looking to widen or expand anything. It's basically working with what we have. And then this is just the last section from Vernon down to Odons Avenue. And one of the things we did here and observe when we were out here that in certain sections, there's a lot of opportunities across Cheltenham Avenue, and other sections not so much. So we did highlight some areas which you can see the traffic signals provide an easy or should provide an easier way for pedestrians to cross the street. But there are some larger gaps. So those purple blocks or those greenish blocks are areas where we're looking to improve pedestrian crossings and provide kind of that, fill in that gap basically between signals. And just getting into some of the intersections that we looked at, Paper Mill Road, geometrically, we're a little challenged here. The homes are right up against the road. So and we're also at the end of the corridor. So basically what we're looking at is trying to improve the operations of the intersection. There were some recent improvements, and what the one idea we had was to provide a kind of basically what's a right turn overlap phase with the traffic signal. So when traffic basically south coming down the picture there wants to turn left on Cheltenham Avenue, they have a advanced green arrow. When that comes up, the right turns on Cheltenham Avenue, that lane would get a right turn green arrow as well. So right now, school buses can't turn on red, so they stop. They muddle things up, especially during the school peaks. So with this recommendation, we also have to look at the corridor on Paper Mill Road. That gets backed up a little bit too. So that's something that'll eventually going to have to be looked at. And then we have the LaSalle High School access. Basically what we're recommending is to provide more of a traditional access. They have an inbound driveway and an outbound driveway. They're pretty far spread out. So we're recommending bring those closer together, signalize, provide turn lanes to get traffic moving in and out of the school campus more efficiently. So next slide. So we have Waverly and Mermaid Lane. These are two offset intersections. And we also know that the Crescent Valley Trail wants to come through this area. There's a Pico right away that's kind of going straight up the page. You can see the two streets kind of on an angle. What we're recommending as one potential alternative is to realign Waverly Road with Mermaid Lane. That would signalize the intersection. That's going to take some right of way. We have to look at Pico, the property owner. So the alternative could be just to signalize those two intersections. With the intersections would operate together with a synchronized traffic signal controller. And we'd also provide the trail crossing there, the signalized trail crossing. Easton Road and Wadsworth Avenue. I'm showing two alternatives here. Basically, the gist of it is, as you're coming down Easton Road, or going up it towards 309, as soon as you get off at Cheltenham Avenue, it feels like you're kind of on a highway. It's high speed, those movements to and from Cheltenham Avenue. People are taking them pretty fast. Right now today, they're channelized turn movements. We're recommending pull those out, provide basically in the middle of Cheltenham Avenue, still provide the left turn lanes, but also provide a median refuge. So, if somebody's trying to walk across the street, they can't make it across all the lanes, they can stop in the middle, wait for the next green light, and then go at the second green light. So we have a lot of people using transit at this intersection, people trying to get to the shopping centers, retail. So our focus was on kind of slowing traffic through there, but trying to keep traffic flowing as well. So this option is for the 3-lane cross section with some of the additional space we give up for additional travel lane on Cheltenham. We're just showing you could provide an enhanced bike or bus stop area as well. So the next slide, very similar configuration. Here we would just have the 5-lane cross section. So we would lose that, dedicated bus facility at the intersection. Then moving down to Limekiln Pike, basically we're recommending left turn lanes on all approaches. Right now, basically if you're coming down heading east towards the city of Philadelphia, if you're in that inner travel lane, it's basically a left turn lane during the peak hours because there's so many people turning left to turn up Limekiln to get to 309. So to make this intersection safer, provide those separated left turn lanes, enhance the pedestrian crossings as well. Try to make those a little bit safer so people are less likely to jaywalk across to the bus terminal, which is just kind of off to the screen here. We did see a couple of pedestrian crashes with those folks jaywalking, so I want to try to avoid that. And then just kind of looking at the section from Vernon to Limekiln, there's a lot of driveways in there, a lot of turns in and out of those, some illegal turning movements from the side streets as well. So what we're trying to do is limit all those turns. In the western section, provide some access management and like a median to limit all those turns in and out of the driveways, and focus them up at the signal at Vernon, as well as provide a center left turn lane leading into the left turn lane at Limekiln Avenue. So that could accommodate some of the left turns as well, keep them out of the travel lanes. That would also require some coordination with the church property there on the north side, and potentially looking to connect all their different parking lots. They're very disconnected today. So look to work with them to try to improve that condition for them as well as the public. Thanks. Some of the other things that we're looking at that weren't shown, Willow Grove Avenue, we're looking at some traffic signal optimization and some safety improvements. Down at Ogons Avenue on the eastern end, we're looking at improving the overall pedestrian experience crossing. That's a huge intersection. So we're looking at ways to do that. We're working with SEPTA as well. And one of the things we did notice, if you're heading out into our study area from the east, it can be a little confusing on what lane to be in. So we're going to make some recommendations on how to improve that as well. Reduce some of those collisions on, right outside of our study units. And then again, we're evaluating the bike options that the city provided. And this is just a visual rendering of that section between Limekiln and Vernon Road. Just a pretty picture basically on what it potentially could look like. Let's see, like a median in the middle on the western side. And then it opens to that center left turn lane into a dedicated left turn lane. So right now, just before I turn it over to questions and answers, we are working to finalize the report with the county. That will have an implementation section in it as well as all the technical and planning that went into the projects. But we'll break up the project probably into different sections, different projects. If this were ever to be done, it's not going to be done in one section. We broke it up in 4 sections for a reason. You might want to target the projects like that. You could probably do some of the intersection projects on their own. So the implementation section of the report will kind of break through that. It'll identify potential funding sources, maybe project champions working with, the county on this, maybe PennDOT needs to take the lead on this type of project. And what kind of grants are available and that sort of thing. So.
Thank you so much. It's a good time to remind everyone that this is via a grant from the Delaware Valley Regional Planning Authority.
Commission.
Commission.
Close.
Such
as the authority.
And that we worked with Cheltenham and the city of Philadelphia to be able to capture this, what was posed as a 9-minute stretch from Paper Mill to Ogon's on average.
Right.
So, do we have any questions from my fellow commissioners on this?
The grant was for the study.
For the study.
Yes.
Right, so
Yes.
You
Yes, correct.
have a sense of, enthusiasm for next steps and.
Sure. Put Mike on the spot, but they seem very enthusiastic.
Mike, can you come
You'll
up
have
to
to
the
come to the
microphone?
mic, yeah.
Mike Popovich, you've got a community planner here in the past.
Yes.
Transportation.
Yeah, Mike.
Yes, community planning assistant manager, actually, and see if we have, so the transportation section's been actively involved throughout this process as well. And so, yes, I mean, we're enthused about the project. And so we've been working hand in hand with John, and of course the townships, and the city of Philadelphia has had a lot to say through Otis. A lot of good input, especially affecting their side of the road and their section of the road. But yes, I mean, we love making streets safer for all users, and that's what this would do. It's sort of a complete streets type project, and thinks about ways to provide alternative ways of providing transportation up and down the corridor, and keeping people safe. So yes, definitely on board with that.
Now that you have, and up to this point, it was public comment and outreach. Now we have some recommendations that I know are still being edited. What is the window of time for which individuals or ourselves can comment on these recommendations that we could incorporate into the final report? If there is anything.
Yeah, I think it's flexible. We, I guess, ran into a little bit of delay in the beginning of the year trying to schedule the public meetings. We had a couple locations set, and then they closed unexpectedly at the last minute, so we had to shuffle. And that actually happened twice. So we're a little bit behind. So, I think the original goal was to be here in the spring. But I think, I think we're hoping to get the report to the county process and have done, probably early fall. We'll get it to you sooner than that. But for them to turn around and get it out, and we're available to make edits and changes.
I guess I'm wondering, is this something that the public should comment on after that report has been delivered? Is it something that we should be doing now? And I'm not saying that, so when I look at it, for example, a stoplight in the middle of Cheltenham and at the speeds that we currently experience, I'm imagining, wow, a sudden stop on that steep grade, that could be a challenge, right? For example, I haven't thought that deeply about it, but just if,
Right.
for example, I have
Sure.
that comment, when is the appropriate time to offer it?
As soon as possible
That's
to incorporate it.
Other than doing it just now.
and again, this
But
is a
for
pla-
members of the public who might be digesting.
Yeah, and I would say this is a planning study, so even if it's finished, these projects are going to move forward with additional studies. So, we could gather those comments, after this report's done and kind of keep them in with the project. So when it advances to the next stage, we can consider all that.
Oh, Thanks. I just
So-
want to set expectations in case, obviously, we're all digesting it for the first time now. You may not have formulated a thought on it. This will not be your last time to formulate thoughts on it. And there'll be a future opportunity to provide those considerations.
Sure.
All right. Any other questions from here or any members of the audience on this particular topic? Please come to the microphone. I didn't give my spiel on speaking, but I'll do that now as you look. Well, you know, Dr. Quinn.
Hi, Alex Klinger, 7811 Elm Avenue. Looks great. It's really cool. I didn't know about this. And I just had a question about one of the earliest slides. It had like 5 problematic intersections, and then like the graph was like agree, strongly disagree. Like what it was that? Like people ranked them as problematic? Yeah, it was a little confusing what that data was.
Yes. So from the priority intersections, those were basically through the survey, what the most feedback we got, the most comments.
Okay,
So-
this is count.
Yeah.
So the number one is basically
Yeah, I think so. Well, no. It got the most. I don't know the number it got offhand. Yeah, I see it's ranked, but I don't know how many comments it received. So,
I mean, there is a number.
Yeah, the chart and the list are separate.
yeah, they're separate graphics.
What is that?
That was
So
about agreeing with the improvement.
Yeah.
And the big one.
In general.
is Strongly agree.
Yeah.
The improvements are.
So the improvements were needed along the corridor. Change. Yeah.
For the whole project, not specific to this.
Yes, yeah. I was putting a lot onto the one box. Yeah.
So what was the question for someone who is on
I
Was
think the
the-
question is, do you wish to or
Right, yeah.
agree with
Yeah.
making a change would actually improve
Improvements, safety,
peace safety values?
Okay, so they would be invited to have like.
Thank you.
A little, yeah, it got a little blurry.
Very small.
Sorry. Yeah, it's strong.
Oh, I see. Okay,
Sorry.
sorry. Excuse me.
Yeah, sure.
I'm sorry.
Oh, it's
And is Cheltenham Road all one like under control of like one group?
No.
So it's like, does Springfield, is it any of it state?
Well, it's a state.
It's a state road. Okay, so it's like Willow Grove Road, the state road. And it's like, Stenton is, this is also a state road. And then, but then we have to cooperate with City of Philadelphia and Cheltenham Township and Springfield Township. Those are the 3 municipalities. Well, it looks good. Good luck.
Thank you so much for your presentation. We'll look forward to seeing your report when it's complete. And obviously, if anyone has any comments, it sounds like we have time to submit those.
Sure.
So I'm just thinking about it. It's kind of simple.
Right. I mean, there are a lot of facilities that have traffic signals when there's a rush of traffic that comes out with the school, the morning, it's a little bit more spread out, but, still pretty concentrated. So definitely during those time periods, they'll have probably most likely special timings to handle that rush. And then, it'll back off after that period's over. And then it will function, more like a typical intersection. So, it'll definitely give more priority to Cheltenham Avenue to keep things flowing. But during the morning and afternoon peaks, it'll get people in and out. So yeah, I mean, it'll definitely have to stop Cheltenham Avenue, but right now there's a lot of congestion out there today too. So, and it makes it safer because their driveway on the hill with the sight lines, that's been an issue since I've been, going to school there, and it's tough to get in and out of. So.
I think there's probably time that we need to digest it and have comments like that, or as I said earlier, and it sounds like we can still submit them certainly from our purview, and it sounds like the public could also continue to follow the Montgomery County planning page on it and submit comments moving forward as you edit this document. So we look forward to your report.
Great.
Thank you so much for coming for this presentation today.
Thanks, everybody.
All right, next I'm going to move into public comment, and I really should say this ahead of time about just a reminder for everyone, for members of the community coming to speak, please speak at the mic to ensure everyone here and online can receive your comments. Be sure to begin with your name and where you live in the township, and please be reminded to keep your comments brief. We will give priority to those who have not yet spoken on each topic. I know I took a quick poll earlier, and I think the next topic we're going to approach is the skate park. I still know there's the outstanding solar panel conversation. I think I saw someone here for the trunk or treat at the library as well. So we'll still go next to skate, which is on tab. Someone remind me. Okay. All right. So at this juncture, I will say, we have a large packet before us, and we just want to set the stage that we've had many conversations about skate park over the course of years. And we're at the point now, I think, to make a decision on what to do next as far as offering a site to a third party it's a group who wants to install a skate park in Otter Township. We have already sent out a survey to those those properties within 500 feet of McKelvey Park. Also, we have an ad hoc committee formed of commissioners who've been working diligently on the due diligence on this matter. And I'm going to pass it to Jim or Brendan to speak to your work on this. And I think the way I want to handle this is set the stage for the conversation, inquire among my fellow commissioners what thoughts you want to share, and then we'll open the public comment on this topic.
Thanks. To lead off just by, we've had a group who have been advocating for the skate park in the township for several years. They stalled out for some time. Some of the time was spent focused on the all these park. Where when we dug into that area, there were certain aspects of that some of that proximity to the public stuff. So then we really opened it up to all the parts of the township, and I've been researching the different areas. Our Parks and Rec department has done a lot of research about what are the ideal circumstances and set up if you're to have a skate park in the township, and we come up with that criteria criteria. And then we're soliciting a lot of the township people. So everybody gets to weigh in, whether it's for or against, what some reservations might be. And some of that input I think has helped shape the discussion. It's raised some good concerns that we have added into the entire study situation. But at this point in time, we have kind of zeroed in on a couple of locations, and we're just looking to move forward. If we have an outside group that's fundraising, we already invest some money, and then but we can't really fundraise without a location to send them out. And so that is the hope that we can arrive at a location that would make sense, so that then the fundraising can happen. Put together a skate park. And as far as the necessity, there's a lot of people who have expressed interest in it. We're also trying to be mindful of how we're supporting the youth and everybody in this township. There are lots of facilities for team-based sports. There is not much for those who are in the individual sports, like skateboarding. Providing them safe spaces to go for team call it something like that, as opposed to, the soccer, whatever, the baseball, whatever. So, there really is a need, we got to find those for the best part for the.
Jim?
Well, I think you summed it up pretty good. I don't have much more for you, for those for the last month. Obviously, you saw the results of a few different surveys. Received a lot of feedback, so that was really thanks. I would think that we approach, I think, the first association, when you talk about what we actually physically do. We're talking about, obviously, the felony, last month, we talked about system. Maybe even as the rest of the. Unless you want to give a go ahead, I think we do. I don't have anything else to say other than.
Other commissioners that have spoken?
Susie, this was an off-benefits, the criteria for the site selection. My understanding is this was shared, I was in here on things.
It was. Since you were a part of this criteria conversation, could you speak to it a little bit to give the public an understanding of the type of work that you were doing?
So we did a rubric, a scoring rubric, based on best practices for 4 municipal state parks. I think we talked about this last month as well, and really, the criteria for a state park best practices: 1, visibility, access for people, comfort, meaning amenities, bathrooms, water fountains, that kind of access. Safety and security, potential lighting. We're not looking there, in parks tonight, quite a slave. Standpoint, an active area. And then, one I know really focused. So based on those criteria, doing our best. We exploring these different sites. Coming into the vehicle. Between Delby, Laurel Beach, Cisco, many members of the public can see the story put in there. And basically, Delby 20, Cisco 26, Laurel Beach 24, Laurel Beach 20, Ridge of 15. Those were for each of those criteria, doing a score and then how it matches that specific. For example, with accessibility, in Cisco, the ideas of government is still radio and after experiences. So anyone can consider it. So it's not scientific, and there certainly some interpretation, some opinion, what the experience could be. There's a big list. See how.
All right, well, I think we can open up to public comment. I will say, just to frame the public comment, and not to belabor everyone's time, I know that some of the fours are what Brendan spoke to, which is providing individual sports some priority or some access that they don't have right now. We obviously have a group of individuals who are trying to install something interesting, and I think that we want to try to accommodate as much as possible within what we can do in our small space. On the other hand, I know that we have heard and we may hear that individuals are using that space, utilizing that space already, want it to be maintained as a green space. And I'm speaking specifically about McKelvey, since that's the priority site. Want it to be maintained as a green space, are concerned about safety, security, graffiti, And there's just trash and all the things that might come with just increased individuals in a location. On the other hand, I would say on that note, I would say that, if you look at best practices, having it in a place where people are accessing it is within best practice of state parks. I think it's probably best practices for parks to be sure that individuals can walk to or get to those spaces. On the security aspect, at some point we talked about Walnut Ave, we talked about even Cisco, Laurel Beach, of course, we spoke about at length. When you look at best practices, the fact that their sight lines are sort of tucked away from the visible eyes of those who are walking by. For some, and you'll see, and you have seen that in various iterations of commentary, hey, put it someplace where it's very far away from neighbors and can be accessed for that purpose. Sort of makes logical sense at first glance, but dug into what state needs, it doesn't really make much sense to tuck them away from where people need to be. And so that's why, let's say if this were a scale, it moves the other way. I think when it comes to the green space, I would just speak to, obviously I've read everything, all this material and have digested over a course of probably 5 years now. I would say that any site location, we could certainly put parameters around it. For example, hey, we're not going to take down any large trees. Can we utilize designs that streamline these for urban spaces, which I think the density of all of our parks really qualify as more urban and not suburban spaces. So whatever best practices are there for that. I think there are parameters we can add that can help qualify and adjust for some of the concerns that we've seen. I think we should acknowledge that there is no perfect place for any improvement, pretty much any time, right? But I think this is at least for me, I would say that I've seen the desire from our community for this type of activity. I think we're trying to be diligent. And I think using this scorecard is an appropriate starting point. I say starting point because I think the next step is to offer to state association and theoretically any group of individuals who want to do state, want to give them in good faith an opportunity to install something in our township within X amount of time. I will also say that I think that financially we're in a tough spot right now because on our side of the house, we have Rec Center, we have Walnut Ave, that this is not a financial priority we can set and say that, hey, we ourselves are going to be outlaying these funds at this time. We don't have it right now. It's not in the priority. However, if it requires some light engineering or something like that, I don't think that that's outside of expectation if we want to encourage this work. So that's where I will leave it before I go to public comment, unless there's any other remarks that I think fellow commissioners. All right. Please feel free if you feel that I have not captured all sides of this matter, please feel free to come up here and speak to it, or if there's some other take you'd like to share with us before we proceed with our discussion. Someone has to break the seal.
What's that?
Someone has to break the seal.
Yes. Okay,
Or I
have
got
a
it
comment.
perfect, and then we can just.
I have
move
a
forward.
prepared comment, so just bear with me. I'm going to try to keep it short. So first of all, thank you for having me. Thank you for the conversation last month. That was super helpful to kind of frame some things. Okay, so as some of you know me, I've been involved in the community for many years with our schools and local nonprofits and now environmental volunteer work. And through that work, I've discovered how much shared community spaces really impact a neighborhood and how important they are for a healthy, connected community. So when faced with the possibility of losing that open space in my neighborhood that serves as a community anchor in a village green, I set out to understand how residents utilize and value this space, not simply whether they support a skate park. Because like I told Jim, this would have been, it doesn't matter what it would have been to displace the green is what's important. So I created an independent survey and shared those full results with the board and the township administration. So I want to thank you for reviewing that data and including it in tonight's packet. I'm not going to read through all the results, but I will highlight that 105 people responded. And nearly 89% said preserving the green was important or very important to them. Their reasons varied, but the pattern was clear. Residents value it as a flexible, accessible, inclusive space for play, gathering, community events, walking, relaxation, and environmental benefits. One resident summed it up by saying, the open space can be used by everyone. There were about 18 pages or over 100 comments that people wrote, thoughtful, heartfelt, and dare I say, passionate written comments. And the vast majority expressed wanting to keep the Orland Town Green as is. I also appreciate the township site evaluation materials that were released this week, the rubric that we were just talking about. That was helpful in understanding the initial scoring process. And I see several areas where additional information would provide a more complete picture. First, regarding the residential proximity score, the scorecard lists McKelvey's nearest residents at 290 feet and awards 4 points. But the nearest Springfield residents live in an apartment building under 100 feet away from the green, which looking at the scorecard would probably be awarded a 1 or maybe even a 0. While several apartment buildings sit in our town's business zone, they're still considered residential homes, as the physical reality is that many people live, sleep, eat, and raise their families there. I know your aim is to get the full picture of residential impacts, so I'd like to get confirmation that our neighbors in the apartments are included and clarification about how that residential proximity is being measured and scored across the sites. Secondly, regarding the community outreach. Because the township notifications were mailed to property owners, the tenants living just steps away lacked an equal opportunity to participate. Directly notifying those apartment residents and posting public meeting notices in town would help bridge this outreach gap and protect the integrity of the township's community engagement process. Third, regarding the scorecard, while it's helpful to see those site logistics for each park as a starting point, I'm hopeful that when you expand the evaluation to include community impacts, including potential losses, you'll consider whether each site can accommodate an appropriately sized facility for our township's population, what green space and current community uses would be displaced, and whether the project would decrease equitable access to public green space. Unique engineering challenges for each park can be noted as well. For example, in a 0.8 acre mini park with active recreation zones surrounding the green, I hope you'll look at including the necessary safety clearance buffers for active wheels, stormwater management for a heavily paved site in an already heavily paved town center, and the environmental impacts on the neighborhood located just 4 blocks downhill in a designated FEMA flood zone. Another notable finding, which was seen in both the township survey and my feedback form, was that residents show a range of support for a skate park in Springfield, with many residents expressing support or neutrality. But support shifted considerably when residents were asked specifically about putting a skate park at McKelvey, with most opposing this location for many of the reasons that I listed tonight. I respect the work that you've all put into this process so far and over many years, and I appreciate how you prioritize resident input and values. So my hope is that with this additional community feedback, it can help strengthen your ongoing evaluation. For tonight, I'm respectfully asking the board to table this recommendation. Please take the time needed to verify the residential proximity measurements, extend direct outreach to the neighbors most affected, broaden the evaluation to consider impacts on the surrounding neighborhoods, and truly weigh what residents value about the spaces under review. When making a permanent change to a landscape and function of a shared neighborhood space, I believe these steps will give the board and the community the confidence that a decision has been made with thoughtful and thorough consideration. Thank you.
Would anyone else like to speak on this topic?
My name is Mary Fallon. I live over on Orchard Way. And excuse me, I have been a consistent non-supporter of the skate park, particularly for Laurel Beach Park. But I may have missed something along the way. So I just wanted to ask you, the Skate Park Association is raising funds and they're looking to get some grants and stuff. But won't there also be township money involved in this project?
At this point, we don't have anything allocated for this project.
That's what I thought.
As I said, I think it would be reasonable to assume that if there's assistance needed from our township engineer and whatever is built that way, if we wish to move forward, that we should be supported in that way. But we don't currently have a grant or any other dollars allocated.
Well, that was, are we expecting the skate park association to raise all of the money for the construction?
At this point, I think the idea, and correct me if I'm wrong, fellow commissioners, is to provide the skate park association an opportunity at a designated site and location that we can guarantee to them for a certain amount of time, let's say, so that they can, in good faith, go out and do the appropriate fundraising and design what needed to accomplish their goals. And that we wish. But they would bear the cost of installation.
Okay, that was not my understanding, so that's helpful. I just want to reiterate, thank you for your eloquence, that it's a lot of members of residents, long-term residents of the township are more concerned about green space than we are about a skate park and the loss of green space. And I just wanted to, and I hadn't heard anybody say this, and this is to Laurel Beach Park, is that if I'm remembering correctly, the Skate Park Association's data indicated that the users of a skate park would be within a mile or within 5 miles, in which case I wanted to just remind you that if Laurel Beach Park was selected, we would be essentially building a skate park for Philadelphia, because Philadelphia is a lot closer to Laurel Beach Park than other hunks of the township. So just wanted to say that too. All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Sure. Hi, I'm Bridget Kunz and I live in Orland. I grew up on Leicester Road and I made it all the way over to Garth. So I've been in downtown Orland my whole life. Didn't get far. This park has been part of my life. And I've watched it go from a sandbox. There was a sand pit there in the early 80s. They had another basketball court in that space. And I was under the impression that part of the reason why that came out was to help with some of the water and the flooding happening down the road. Because so much water rushes down Allison Road to the creek. So I don't know how much of that green space helps absorb some of that runoff.
Just quickly, my understanding was it was something else.
Yeah, the basketball court that was there was very clearly that needed to be replaced. And the summer basketball league was operated at been.
Okay.
That's when it was originally constructed. The thought was that this was taken out.
Scrap it.
Invest the money in replacing it.
Okay. Not to discount that obviously there'd be value in having green space.
Right.
Instead.
So it just, another concern I have is it is township land. And although a separate organization might build, what is the liability to the township for injuries? So if it goes into disrepair, like the basketball court had, somebody tripping on a basketball court's injury is going to be a lot less than somebody on a skateboard. So what's the liability to the township? I don't know how much that's been looked into. That's potentially a big lawsuit.
Something to send us a report on.
Yeah.
Okay, those are my thoughts. Thank you.
Thank you.
Alex Klinger, Elm Avenue, Winmore. Are the commissioners wanting to decide for sure where the park is going to be tonight?
It's actually voting on plans that.
Well, but you would decide tonight based on the comments? I thank you for your, I heard about this through, being forwarded a Facebook page and they're like, what's happening? And the, township manager kindly filled me in, but it seems like it is a mistake to rush a decision merely to allow this skateboard group to do better fundraising. And that's what it sounds like to me. I mean, the township doesn't have money for the skateboard park. There's a lot of environmental issues that have not been considered. There's, I mean, that it sounds to me like it's not a good time to make this decision. And there might have been flyers sent out to people who live by, but to discriminate against renters that live right there. I mean, they are residents of, and to not, and or the businesses, and to and have a rubric that might not be completely accurate. And I was involved with I'm much closer to the Laurel Hill Park area, which was kind of like the number one spot for it. And then, but it sounded like where they wanted to put it there would have taken down like 8 trees. And it's like, we don't want to pave over anything that's more in this township that doesn't need to be paved over. And I love the skate parks. I love the skate parks. There's some certain places in Philadelphia. There's a cool one like under 95 that was like done all like underground. It was really awesome. But it's like here in Springfield Township, it's like I was at the meeting where all the young people came, and they were very excited, and they formed this group, and they got a lot of support, and the township agreed to, I don't know what the township agreed to do.
They wanted to offer, to say that if you raise half the cost of a skate park, then we will consider it. And we, at this board, I think that's a bit vague to offer to any group of people who want to fundraise. To your question of, do you want to decide tonight? In my opinion, I would like to formulate some parameters by which we can offer to our staff to write a letter to the Skate Park Association. Here are the parameters by which we would allow for a skate park. There are some location options. I mean, I would say there's a rubric of a couple options. I actually really like Cisco, for example, but I'm also not a skater, and I don't skate, and I'm not in skate park design, and we're not. And it would be, I think, beneficial to have, as Jim said, the Skate Park Association folks have the opportunity to come to that consensus on their own, but with some parameters that we've already investigated here at the board. That would be my hope tonight, fellow commissioners. If you have a different take, that's fine. I just want to move it forward in that direction. Sure.
I would just say, you've been talking about this for years.
Well, I'm aware. I mean, I've been part of
We're not
that.
having any decision really about a lot of.
Well, I'm not saying willy-nilly, okay? I'm not accusing you of being willy-nilly. What I'm saying is that, yeah, there's a lot of parameters, okay?
I think it's fair to set parameters, and I think that's what we're talking about.
Right,
I appreciate your comment. If I could just speak to the green space element, I just want to be clear. I think this board and even the previous boards behind us have strongly advocated for and wish to preserve as much green space as possible. Recently with the Hurston Woods acquisition, we heard about that earlier. We'll likely do a grand opening for that park soon. We're going to be including large scale amounts of meadow in the Walnut Avenue site, for example. We're recently getting our Mermaid Park rated as an arboreta. So I think there's many data points to show that we have a great interest in green space. And even in this, hey, can we keep all the largest trees, be sure that an arborist comes and certifies whatever trees that we can keep. I think this is you know, in the grand scheme of things, a smaller incursion that's balanced, as we must always balance, with a lot of other investments in green space across town. And I think this is just, you know,
Yeah,
we're trying to do the due diligence to find out.
yeah, thank you. I
And
think
be
that,
fair, and be fair to folks who have an interest in investing in our parks. And if I just may say one more thing, I think one piece that really spoke to me is this idea that, well, so what? So can you prove the number of people, percentage of our population is going to use this space? And I think Brendan spoke to it early on in setting the stage. And I said, no, I really can't. I can't count the number of people who use the swing sets. I don't know how many people, you know, go down a slide, but I do know that, you know, if there are groups of individuals in our township that are looking and trying to fundraise and do this work, if we are in agreement that it's an activity that we support, I feel like it's a low bar for us to open up those pathways from my
Well,
position. You know.
it's, I
And-
think
and
that,
by the way, it's
oh,
not necessarily a conversation, you know, for or against you, just general
I-
everyone, all right? Sure. No,
I
know you're
just,
standing there.
that,
Don't feel you have to say that.
I was, don't like the, I mean, you weren't here when this first came up. I mean, with the commissioners have been talking about it, but it does make sense, like what you said. Like, I think that that makes a lot of sense, is to present the parameters to the skateboard park group, have them come and give and convince the commissioners where the best place is too, along with public comment, and have a public forum where people can, where a dialogue can actually happen. And it's not all this like kind of like a Facebook post here and a Facebook post there. And like, and so anyway, I would just say that it's like, I'm not accusing you of making the decision willy-nilly. I'm just imploring you to recognize that this decision has a big impact on a lot of different people, and that to have the right dialogue and the right parameters and the right advocacy from all stakeholders to contribute to the decision that the Board of Commissioners will make in their recommendation.
Thank you.
There were a couple of points that were raised that I think should be clarified a bit
Okay.
for the benefit of the public. And I recognize that it's easy in today's social media environment for there to be a lot of misinformation out there. I'm not pointing to anything in particular, but I just realize that, you know, that's the constant where people get a lot of information from. I think there's some danger in believing everything one sees on social media, and whether that's accurate or not. There were 2 points that were raised that I particularly like to hear from General Brandon's something about the process. About number one, there was a point made that environmental issues have not been considered. Can you guys speak to what's been looked at in terms of environmental impact? Yeah, which, I mean, in the very basics of the earlier, we choose the other measurements. We looked at three sites. I would say, but look, let's simplify this a little bit. At the end of the day, there's only 2 sites that. So some of it's paralysis by analysis. So we're down to Cisco property, probably consideration. That's just sort of very really, and again, we can evaluate those themselves. Any type of environmental consideration has been discussed, right? If the site has a particular characteristic, the issues doesn't work, those things happen. We're really done evaluating itself.
You had a second question.
Yeah, the other point I wanted to raise is that there was some mention that there was, I believe the board discrimination against, with respect to the renters. Can anyone speak to, what, oh, I'm sorry. Could anyone speak to, or at least provide some more detail for the benefit of the public as to the outreach that was done, particularly with respect to the apartment buildings? The property owners put on the bond. So they're the ones that own the building and we put it on them to notify their tenants. We don't have an individual tenant roster, we don't have the individual tenant addresses, and then if you don't, they deliver, you can't put it in the mailbox, because that's illegal. Because like you start them on the building and something like that. It can't be the postal service puts out for that thing. So, I mean, we could kind of do this plainly, there's an effort made to notify the property owner. Okay, I just wanted to put that out there for the, kind of for the public, that we made efforts to do whatever we could legally to reach those things.
And I would just add that there's still time to do more outreach, because there was, in a world where we approve the opportunity, let's just say it's at McKelvey and or Cisco, the skate park association would theoretically say, hey, I like McKelvey. There's still time to do outreach, because they have to do a design that we have to submit and get through the planning process that we would have, which would require Parks and Rec, would require planning, possibly.
So, certainly there would be a public process that would.
Additional public process that could occur. And I think that notation of being sure that if we have to put out more flyers because it's going to be an audience that's not easily reachable in this regular avenue, I think that's a fair notation.
And we're not talking about construction next week, and we're talking about a runway that's probably several years down the road, right?
Potentially.
That it's, I think it's good information to say that it's between two sites. Like you said, it's like, because it overcomplicates things. If you're like, oh, well, there's 5 places it could be. And it's just, and to let the public know, what do you think, Cisco or McKelvey or nothing, and also let this have and inform that. I think that we need to put more accountability on this skate park association to advocate for.
They've been in so many meetings, talking about this, they've been in planning commission. I mean, they really have gone above and at the end of the day, we're talking about township decision, we're gonna make a decision, who's gonna like it, what we decide, but it is on us. They really have put a lot. So they advocate, they want to go, they advocate for family, we open some. You're asking them to put the plan, they do.
And they sent money in that regard. It's not just, an idea at this point.
We need to,
If,
what are the.
sure. I was going to ask if maybe the skate park folks, if you don't mind, have anything to add at this time. Having heard and obviously being a part of it for so long. I know you're here, Pete. If you'd like to speak, you're welcome to. You don't have to. And Pete's associated with the Skate Park Association.
Yeah, and I'm just not going, there's nothing new for me to say. That's why I really haven't made any comments. I mean, I think you touched on it beautifully, which is, we've advocated in this township with providing a ton of opportunity for team sports, but with that comes a schedule, team you have to sign up for. What we don't have, which one of you touched on, which is one of the real importance, is just that, giving the individual opportunity and, on their schedule and allowing for, team sports isn't for everybody. I did both, and I enjoyed them both, but I just think that we've seen there's a real need, for the community to have a place, an outlet, for skateboarders, bikers, to be able to have a facility to go to in a safe environment. So, I mean, I can't keep going on.
Do you have any thoughts on McKelvey or Cisco?
I know that they were excited about McKelvey, our original, discussion, but it's, like you said, we paid for a design when we thought it was going to be, up in Winmore. And we paid, a few $1,000s out of our coffers for that. So as far as trying to figure out, we need to know where it's going to be before we, figure out which one we're, more excited about at this point. I know that's tough to say.
I know, we're in a chicken or egg situation. Now,
Yeah.
Beth, you said you want to talk about Cisco a little bit.
I think with the homestead, I think it's really, really. Which, the fence is, so, you know, it's- Yeah. Well, with that, I mean, this week, we got the, I mean, it's not a discussion, but we not people else we have, not we started because it is, we developed and so the balance is, well, it's not. I was suggesting that, okay, these are all about the, just thinking about, system, you know, it's kind of absolutely doesn't focus on this stuff. But that, I'm really talking about things like this.
I will say this, I think Cisco or McKelvey is, and I think at this point, if we narrow it down to two and we offer that to a group of individuals who are the experts in what we do, what they do, I'd rather that than say it must be here or not. And I think offering both of those, which seem, and knowing that this group of individuals have so many hurdles still. One, having to create a design that is going to accommodate some of these parameters, which you can almost without us writing it, know those parameters. We want to keep certain amounts of green space. We want to be sure we don't pull up large trees. I mean, you can probably, type that on the back of the envelope right now. I think that's fine to say if we feel like we want to give Cisco the equal weight as McKelvey to explore for, again, a third party who's already willing to make this investment. I just want to be sure that we're doing our part in creating that pathway for the opportunity.
Is there an actual measurement that's been, cordoned off for Cisco?
So at Cisco, the reason why it came up and it came up actually at the same time lacrosse came up, there is a underutilized, non-utilized softball pitch that was previously in years past used maybe for adult leagues.
Right.
I asked the softball league itself, like, hey, do you guys use this space? Does it need to be reserved for future softball or baseball usage? And even if it did, do we want that to happen? So that's sort of how Cisco came about, in addition to scoring well, when you think about the fact that it's adjacent to institutions as opposed to residences. And of course, it's already attached to a large central park that we use as our central park, essentially. So those are all benefits. The one big downside actually is its proximity to water issues. I think just we talked about this water issues at Cisco. That was one. There's something else. Well, right. It came up sort of part and parcel with that conversation. We were talking about lacrosse having also a concrete wall. Although, again, thinking creatively, not trying to be overcomplicated, but gosh, could you incorporate a concrete wall from lacrosse or street park? But that felt like doing too many things, right, at one time.
Yeah.
Just so you can understand the framework from the previous. But I mean, I feel much like Jim Lee just said, look, we don't want to overcomplicate things. It sounds like you have two sites. You can write up some parameters. Parameters would, you heard them here. You don't want to lift up large trees. You want to be sure it's safe. You want to be sure it's appropriately fenced. Things that weren't mentioned, but I've seen in a number of times would be maybe ensure that art is already incorporated into the space or provide a space for public art, because we know that's part of the culture of skating, for example, art and stickers, and other directors of other parks reported back that was beneficial to the space. But I think we can draft a memo and then we can all see it and move on to the next step. And again, many hurdles to come because this group of individuals or any group of individuals who wish to do this still have to create a design, fly it up this flagpole once again, and go through the same public outreach.
And that will be,
Sure.
so I just want to be able to know that, I think I speak for the board, but through all this, we have become committed to provide. Therefore, providing the opportunity for this to be. That's what we do. So this is not a matter of, we are not, we are committed, we want to find a spot for this. For the community, for the students, for the residents, for all of us. The number of people, the number of youth that active in living in schools, and living in schools. The number of people, the people, who are in schools, the people who do stuff like that. They do the skateboard, and they really understand. You know, a lot. We do see people skateboarding. We see people in Marlow Field walking around. And we got there, we just skateboarding in the park. I am not a skateboarder. Kids are not a skateboarder. As a Portland resident, I'd rather have the grass there. When they put the basketball court out, made grass, I was happy. I know that guys did skate, that's what I did. My opinion is I want to do the best for people, especially the people that are doing so. There's no way to show that this guy's going to tell you. There's no way to say you're going to have something that's concrete. That's the big downside. And everyone who doesn't want that to change, I get it. Big argument. That argument. The bus is going to go. It's an active area. Plenty of kids can walk there. And Cisco, they even more than late. You know, it's talking people.
Adjacent to busy roads.
No, I live on my street. I see kids. I'm down my street. It must be on this street. We got pizza shop, we got an ice cream shop, we got Warland Market where you get some expired food. And you can't buy beer there right now, but it's kind of like a vibrant, thing. It'd be nice to have the green on that. And I'm fine with it. It's just good. It's a nice there. But we're really down to those two spots. There really isn't any other else. That really fits. I mean, Walnut had a lot of good potential. Seemed like a good idea, but when you do look at best practices, you want it to be visible, accessible, and that's just so good. The people that have concerns about other extremes, things happening, that's more likely to happen. It's just similar. People walk to the front, again. So I don't know. I'm sorry. I don't want to lose the brain either, but we're trying to make
Yeah.
the best.
I don't think anyone who's spoken up really wants to,
I'm just gonna,
lose the green either.
For this to be the last comment.
I did just want to go back to my comment because one of the things I wanted to clarify was having those measurements verified. Because the residential proximity to the 1 3-unit multifamily dwelling is 99 feet. To the second one, it's 200 feet. To a single family residence, it's 230. And so I don't know exactly from which point in the park you were measuring to a single family home, but I want to ensure that people in the people who live in these multifamily dwellings in the apartment buildings, we're actually considering them as residents. Because if you're saying that the measurements that you have listed here for Laurel Beach and Wind Hill are 150 and 180 feet, and that is the reason why it's not happening there, then when we have residents who live 99, I'm referencing the 3 on Allison Road. So here.
So is that the one that used to be a hair salon that was just recently converted to
Yeah.
apartments?
It was 2 apartments and a business, and now it's 3 apartments. And across the street on Clement, that's where the 200 feet come in. The closest single family home is actually the convent that was just sold.
Yeah, I don't know how Jim Murphy did. I know.
I don't- yeah. Yeah, and that's where these measurements.
I forget like the closest corner is that of that street on the there, to the physical structure of the house.
Okay, that's,
And we did mean single family home. I mean, not to say that we disregarded.
well, I think we have to include
I think your- I
residents.
think your
They
point is
live
valid.
here, they raise their families here, they pay rent, which pays taxes in Springfield. It would be ridiculous and unconscionable to say that their voices don't count.
Yeah, I would say, I think my understanding was the concern.
Yeah,
was-
well, that's what was just said.
Nobody's saying we are not assuming that it's not anything. Only the anybody who's they said to the property owner, you are not legally allowed to stuff things into the mailbox. Or it's up to the property owner to notify their tenants of what's going on.
Right. I talked to some of the tenants and one of the property owners passed away. So there's a lot of things. And I know for when Laurel Beach was happening, there were public notices posted in 10 different areas. That didn't happen in Orland. That there were notices about meetings that were going to happen before a recommendation was even made. So now that a recommendation has been made to the board, and this is the first meeting, and they didn't have a chance to really say like, hey, I know last time you talked about legal, requirements to send that and that there are none other than to the property owners. I understand that, but if they can get the Springfield newsletter, they should be able to get a letter about something that is going to directly affect them and their everyday lives. I just hope that the measurements are taken into consideration and be seriously considered. I know you guys have heard from the skate parks for 5 years. I know you appreciate their efforts. When was the last time that we've actually polled to see how many people want a skate park specifically? I think last meeting you said it was 2022. We're 4 years later. I know you really are appreciative of their efforts. This is, for me, not anti-skateboarding. This is pro-green space. I've created this survey. You have hundreds of comments, and I feel like last time you were basically saying the same thing, like, we really just want to do this, and no place is perfect. But everyone who lives, not everyone, a lot of people who live around there are telling you, we really don't want this. We'd rather have the green. We use the green. And it feels like because of the relationships that have been formed over these years with the skate park association, and there's nothing wrong with that, but that's getting precedence over what the people are telling you right now and what they value right now.
It says, would you and your property be impacted by a skate park at Carnage and Montgomery Park? You have 18 saying yes, negatively, you say 2 or yes, positively, and you have 16 saying no impact. So that to me is saying half and half. It's not like there's a.
That was the township survey. Yeah, that is the township. Yeah, that one was a lot of people that there would feel that they had no impacts because they within that 500 feet radius. But they did go on to say, let me see if I can find a page. So if you look at the spreadsheet that was sent, if you look at the people who said no impact, they generally indicated that they did not expect the proposed skate park to directly affect their property or their daily lives. However, some noted they still had opinions regarding that proposal or recognized potential impacts to the broader community. So there were 30 in the survey that I put out, 30 negative responses and additional the ones that came to Mr. Murphy.
I just want to speak to the point about implication that we'd like to intentionally disregarding residents or tenants over there. I don't think that's a desire, but I think that, should this, and it sounds like, I think we could offer these sites to a skate association who has future hurdles with future public outreach. And in that, we'll be sure to put a parameter that we're being sure to reach out to those individuals to accommodate any concerns that they have, which could be, for example, I don't know. Hey, we really need a gate on it, for example. Hey, I of course would prefer it to be a green. I really need the trees to remain, things like that. I think those parameters need to be taken into consideration. They're still going to go through a public outreach effort. we're still going to have to approve it. It's coming back here again. And I
Okay,
think that we can accommodate that concern. I think it's a valid concern.
okay, thank you. So just to clarify, you're hoping to say like, hey, skate park, here are two possibilities. And you're having them look at both.
I think that they would have to submit a design that works for them. I just don't want to presume that I know what's best. for-
No, and I don't even mean the design,
mean,
but just
right.
like, here are two spots that you can look at and we're okay with you looking at these.
This is my hope. Me personally, I think we need to give them that in good faith and say it has to be done within X number of years. And other, whatever parameters we can write into the letter, which I'll have to apply by staff and with our solicitor and be sure it's acceptable. And then that way they can have a letter in hand to do the appropriate legwork for a project that we would love to fund ourselves, but we really can't at this time. It's just not responsible to do it this time.
Okay. Thank you so much. Thanks for looking at those measurements to ensure their accuracy and taking the apartment residents into consideration, as well as everyone who took the time to put their thoughts in there about what they value right now. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, everyone. That's my suggestion, everyone. It's, as I stated, and I think that it's sufficient information for you and then fellow commissioners. Is there something else you'd like to add or take away? That's my suggestion. As you heard me say, I think we offer a letter. We have staff be sure to include any parameters, which some of which I've sort of said out loud. We can edit it ourselves, and then we have something to offer to the skate park association moving forward so they can do the appropriate fundraising. I think there should be an X amount of time on it so that they have something in hand to work with. Anyone?
I think we need to find out. And then, you know, the measurements, I mean, we can certainly look at the measurements more than things. I would just point out with the measurements they do have here, this would seem to presume that the entire green space, all the trees that are getting plowed into this park. Which the park, well, that's where the lines are coming from, outside of the trees to the different residences.
That's just to the line of the park. And with skate parks, there's a lot of activity that happens around the edges because the centers are kind of driven through. There's a lot of hanging out, waiting your turn. There's people spectating. There's a lot of activity that's going to happen on the,
Skate park, where people hang out.
right. And I don't exactly know where the skate park will be on that green either. So that was just to the edge, and it's noted edge to edge. I also made, measurements from the center of the park to these places if you'd like to see that as well.
Yeah, I mean, we're in a good conversation.
Yeah, and I'm not sure how Jim did it either.
It does seem. I mean, these lines go from the outside of the trucks. Yeah, because the skate park will take up
But
where the basketball court used to be. So it's going to be.
if you're saying the red outline, that was just to show where McKelvey is. The dot itself is within the park boundary.
For the skate.
I don't know where the skate park would be. It would be,
You said that we're not taking up trees, so it's hard to do it outside the trees.
okay, so then maybe that can be looked at because that would still be well under the 290 feet that is currently listed. Okay, my ask is that you just please verify it because there does seem to be a discrepancy there. So,
Sure.
yeah, thank you.
Mike, do you have enough information to move forward with the first draft of a letter that we could write to the skate park association?
Well, I certainly like to have crystal clear direction
All
moving
right.
forward as to what I'm putting out there, and I think the public would probably appreciate what's going out there as well. So probably talk about a size that you're comfortable with, of no more than, whatever that may be. Green functions, trees, landscaping, if there's fencing, those types of things. I think are all the things that we should discuss and have.
Hammer it out.
Yeah.
I think the size still needs to be dictated by which trees you're not taking out. But I think no greater than what was formerly the basketball court.
For,
for McKelvey. And then, for Cisco, I would say just for ease, the same size or similar size, which I think there was a number somewhere in our documents. Was it 5,000?
So in the document that was handed out tonight,
Mm-hmm.
there's an aerial photo that shows two basketball courts, which are very similar to the setup that we have at the Kelby Park. This is at another location, I believe it's in California. And the area that's circled in red is a 3,000 square foot skate park area. So Jim included that so you could get a feel for the size of the facility in relationship to
A basketball court.
the two basketball courts that exist today. So that's
It's
an
already
reason,
paid for the budget. Without even,
if you're comfortable with up to 5,000 square feet, just looking for clarity and direction as to what the size is that you want. Or that you're okay with.
I think it's use of the space of the former basketball court, less, removal of trees, basically you can't remove those trees, so up to,
Yeah, there's no
5,000 square
tree where the basketball court used to exist. So that's not an issue there. But have no greater than the previous size of the basketball court, no disturbance of trees or removal of trees. Is there anything else you want to put in there to give?
I don't have a strong feeling about, fencing, but I feel like someone might, and I think you're gonna need to. Because if skateboards get out from underway, then they need to put a fence before the street. I think it should include art or be considerate of artwork, whether installing them or otherwise providing a location for artwork to occur. We'll have to do a campaign with residents, including tenants, to ensure that those individuals would be aware of future public outreach opportunities.
Like that's it.
Whether
I
that's
thought that was
posting.
gonna happen after they come up with a design,
Right,
right? 'Cause that's more of a public notice component than a
Right.
design component.
correct. Anything,
I think for Cisco, we probably be real, what, if you have concern about.
Either one of these.
We'll have to have stormwater. Oh, yeah, to be clear, stormwater runoff.
Has to get incorporated in there as well.
I think we were also, see that location.
Yeah, the one, the lower softball field, it's down by where the dump tank drains where,
That's too
that's
low.
not gonna work. That's in a footprint. You're not gonna work.
The ones close to the playground. Yes, that was one of the two options of this one. But right, more diligence on Cisco would be needed that we could help contribute to, but obviously, again, want to defer to folks who skate to comment on.
So, the Calvin has the old basketball court, it's services. Right, but it's a system we have to find scholars.
A maintenance agreement would have to be developed and approved.
Anything else? Maybe insurance?
I was just gonna
It's gonna be on our property, we're gonna be
The only thing.
They're not, they're volunteer. Not even an organized nonprofit, I don't know. So, they're not really- yeah.
I would, and I don't know if it's parameter, but something we could research, if, should it ever go into disrepair, are there places that have escrow for decommissioning a space like that to help us assist in decommissioning space in, I don't know, X number of years, 15, 20 years, no one's using it. What, type of effort would be required? It might be good to have that as part of the maintenance plan. That's what I have. And the biggest factor being not taking trees. It's so maybe this notation from all of the notes. Okay. All right. We will get a draft of that to get us started. TBD on when that letter should come to us, and then they'll be available in some public format, likely. Or not likely. We can. Fellow commissioners, any thoughts? I would say it's not typically.
Do you want it to be something that you talk about next month in a letter form? Because that would be your only public thing, really like that.
I mean, I think-
I don't know.
I mean, you're talking about it now. You're gonna put a letter together. You talked about the parameters.
And we still need to talk to the skate park association.
We've got this. So I would, if I'm saying this. We've heard the additional feedback by Robinson, said, we bring it to the government, we probably do this. Yeah.
Well, I was saying that we've essentially created this letter that we're already prepared to draft and send out to the skate park association. We need, once again, to go through another vote. I think if we're in agreement here, then I think that's fine, and the letter can go out. You're saying.
I think the letter that if you authorize me tonight to send a letter out authorizing them to develop this space for a park, you're basically giving your consent for that location for a period of time without a formal vote. Unless you want to take a formal vote, we can put that on the agenda on Wednesday.
We're saying that the same thing. I don't want to ask them to do the big news under consideration. We're going to see.
Then let's put it on the agenda for Wednesday. Is that fine? Can we put that on the agenda for Wednesday? You said?
Just a formal consent.
Some formal consent for this letter. All right,
For the letter or for
the use of the space.
for the use of the space.
And that's.
Use of the space with parameters established for the development of this skate park.
Right, we're gonna have device.
Yeah,
For the final approval. Yeah, I don't wanna be sure of what we're saying. We're saying, this is what it is saying, yes, to tell you the condition.
yes.
Because that, when Cisco is not part of the conversation. If Cisco is part of the conversation, if I'm a neighbor near Cisco, I'm saying, where's my letter? There's the knife, you know, 2 minutes.
I guess maybe I stand
You
differently.
guys have just changed your mind. I mean, right now, you are now proposing to say that it's going to be at McKelvey.
We're discussing.
Excuse me, you're speaking in the public meeting.
Process,
This is the
Dr.
process.
Planner.
I mean, I know, but I'm confused because
I understand. I think we're trying to hash it out.
We want to have different opinions. She made a proposal and I made a comment.
I mean, look, I just feel like it would be beneficial to offer a group of people who are greater experts on skate. Cisco as an alternative option, if they so wish to go down that route, which will require other diligence, as we know. And there's going to be required diligence at McKelvey, but that they would have those options. It would be the same form letter, it would be the same parameters, essentially, knowing that there's going to be a public process following up. And I'm, following suit with, Bethany visiting Cisco. I personally like Cisco also, because of its central location and adjacency to institutions as opposed to residences. I just want to offer that in the same letter at one time. And that I
You
think.
haven't had a whole lot of extended discussion about Cisco. This is where you're gonna
Confuse them.
get yourself in trouble. Because you're coming up at the 11th hour out of nowhere without extended deliberation about it.
To your point, that like the transparent discussion is necessary, but it needs to go down to the leaves, it needs to go into the leaves. And I'm not going to just say, like, the board of action. Like,
Right, that was my point, is let's plan to vote on it.
Okay. I think
Instead
that's
of whatever, Wednesday.
cute.
Which I want to move faster, but I want to do.
No, no, I understand.
And I appreciate it, I'm not on something with the, so I'm, you know, I'm pushing. That's what you're about this stuff. That it was never out of this stuff, as long as I understand. I think there's any kind of two, two best, but especially things, but,
The most time is spent on the beach, so it'd be hard to say, okay, now and these other sites have had these long, a lot of other facilities, and all of a sudden, no, it's here, it's location. That,
Well, then it sounds like we can draft a letter, prepare it to get approved for next month. And at your request, and to your point, rather than 11th hour, squeeze something in, let's be sure to be diligent about that and put it for approval. That way we'll have time to review any parameters and digest some of the material further if there are additional parameters that arise. Fair? Okay.
just to make sure that the clear up the that sequence is the public. No, discussion.
Okay.
The life structure of so in this sequence that we're talking about, there's two possibilities that we see. Right? Association. Because this is what it is. So that you find out with any information and any information, right? And the extended discussion on the.
That's correct, because the design would have to be submitted. We have to go through Park and Rec Committee. We have to come back here. And as Mike said, may not have to go through planning process, but should it, then it would also have an option.
and all that is nuts, but let's not say the decision to be clear on. Not whether. Really, it's showing about this, it should be here or it should. We're not trying to confuse about all the criticism. Well, how many criticism is getting valid?
I think that all concerns.
To residents.
Baseline, like, the honest. And then they would step with the house, sure, it's right, baseline.
We've already decided, we've already decided that.
Yes, that's my hope. My hope is to put it in writing and that we can agree to it and offer it to this third party so they can move forward. Sure.
A question, are there homes within 500 feet of Cisco Park?
Yes.
So those would be people that would have to be,
390.
those would be people that would have to be notified. Is it 500 feet?
Within 500.
Within five. Okay.
Oh, yes, yes, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Of course.
So there's no formal legal requirement for notification.
Right.
We observe what we observe under the law for the zoning hearing board,
Mhm.
right? So there's a requirement for a zoning hearing board application. We just kind of use that as the basis for our notification.
For parking.
Right, any kind of parking. Right.
So, yeah, so my question was, would there be people that would need to be notified who live near Cisco Park? Okay, that's what I was checking on. Okay.
I just don't want to foreclose Cisco in this conversation simply because we talked about Montgomery. I think that's the point Beth made. I think I would agree with that because I think there's, there would be work needed to be done, but I think it wouldn't change our conversation if we did that work with Cisco, that we would have tell them to write the same letter and say that, hey, you can observe these possibilities. I think the same letter would happen. Considering everything, here's a letter, here are some parameters, not too deep, to your point, some of the things we've already noted. And then we're passing this football on to someone else who theoretically is going to pass it back to us. Right. Which means, is there a time that we must put on it? And is
My
there-
suggestion.
and only the location.
Yes, because I don't think we can't vote on the system. Like the vote regarding the system would be, we want to know. But we can't vote next month for this system. After we had all these discussions with other locations, we didn't have. We didn't system.
I'm trying not to foreclose the opportunity, should a group of people decide that I don't want to overcomplicate it, even though it sounds like I am. I just want to foreclose that possibility if that's a better spot, and we just don't quite know it because every month that we have to meet is 1 month's time that has to pass. And so I would rather have that come from the experts on state. In this case would be a state park association and their engineering firms and all of that. I'd rather just say the same letter.
Not my vote. But now you're gonna ask that skate park to.
If they
invest more
wish,
money.
they don't have to. The point is that they would have these options. They've been a part of these conversations and they know what the concerns are. And I don't know what challenges they may face at McKelvey. I mean, they may run into that, and I don't want to have to do this all over again
You're going
for the sake of this.
for the sake of system, you're going to. As Jim said, you're gonna have to put out a notification for the people who are potentially impacted by a skate park with Cisco. I think it's that, if in a month's time, we decide that help is not the location that we want. Then the next step is. Cisco.
All right,
The suggestion is
it's Jim's.
conduct a vote on McKelvey next month. Right. If it doesn't go anywhere. Then it's going to Cisco.
Okay, that's fair enough. Let's see it. Fair? Okay. Then letter.
No letter.
to-
Vote next month.
So we're voting on a letter that was drafted that we're present that he has back, right? Okay,
Well, there's other details. that we looked at. You know, many of the things that go wrong, but the things wrong, it's. Broad general guidelines can be provided in the vote. for
Okay.
That location.
that's fair enough. I'm okay with that. All right, thank you. All right, that concludes our conversation on skate park at this time. We'll have a vote on that next month. The next topic, someone, if they hung in there for this, is solar panels. Is the individual who's interested in solar panels still here? All right, well, in the event that individual comes back, I'm just going to quickly do trunk or treat. At the library, friends of the library wish to do a trunk or treat. I don't know if I need much further detail. It sounds like all proceeds would benefit the friends of the library, and I'm comfortable with that me personally, but we have a member of a friends group here who would like to speak? So go for it.
Yeah, I submitted a proposal. Thank you very much for taking me on at the very last minute. And we're proposing a trunk or treat in the library parking lot on October 24th. It's the last day of the Friends of the Library Week. We have an
Have Jan.
author event, in the middle of the week. It'll be well, I don't need to go into that. And, it's, we're picturing to have like 15 to 25 vehicles. They're very popular events where people decorate their trunks and then the kids can go around and, it would be a safe, contained space for families, relaxed atmosphere, neighbors can connect. And the, library did run an event like this during COVID. And other friends of the libraries have had this kind of event successful. And so it's it's a free, convenient, safe holiday activity for people close to home, and it's close to home, and it's good for the township. And the township could also, and we'd also be open to inviting other township groups to participate with us, like kind of like the National Night Out or the COVID trunk or treat event. And then it's and personally, I'm president of the Friends of the Free Library, Springfield Township, and this I've just started. I'm ending my term and at 2 years, but the Friends of the Free Library, Springfield Township, have spent years quietly supporting the library. Very successful fundraising. We support all sorts of events. I mean, all sorts of special things at the library and pay for, like the magicians, the summer reading, the memoir writing class, tickets to Eastern State Penitentiary, tickets to Mission Museum, and but many of the members are longtime members, and they put in their time, and we're trying to help them, pass on the torch to younger members. And this would be a great recruiting event to have, young families that use the library. And so, and then we'd probably charge an amount of money for like people to park, like, and decorate their trunks, but it's not, and any fundraising would go directly into our Friends of the Free Library and go to support the library. And so I haven't, I submitted a proposal, and I guess I thought you might have it, but
Yeah.
oh, you have it. Yeah. And it's, and we haven't, but I wanted to get like sort of a go ahead before working out logistics and working with, it would be when the library's closed. And we don't want to burden the library staff with anything. So it would be all volunteers from the Friends of the Library. But we would work with the librarians, and like, if they wanted to, if the library staff wanted to participate, we'd definitely participate with them. And since they've already had a trunk or treat, we can get advice from them and work with Parks and Rec to set up the logistics and work things out. So
Yeah. The only thing is the certificate of insurance needed for
okay,
from the fund.
okay.
And have you thought about how you plan to bring the parking lot up there so that the cars that, like, people coming to the event and park, with their kids, that go and pump trees?
Right,
Aren't
right.
in conflict with the cars that are set up and displayed?
Yeah, I was looking at the map, at the parking lot map, and there's what did
You
I
don't have to tell me
say?
now, as long as you put thought
Oh,
into
yeah,
it,
yeah.
and that you know, like, that there. you
Right,
wanna
to
segregate
keep
that. Yeah.
it so that there's not people coming and going, running over the kids trick or treating.
And you talked about the folks who would decorate their cars and be there and give out the candy would be charged a fee.
Yeah, yeah.
Is that model, is that what's employed in other
Mhm.
organizations?
Hmm.
Okay, all
Yeah,
right.
yeah.
Good luck.
Thank-
Sounds good. Sure.
sponsorship of the businesses we have called? You mentioned it playing free. Zero doing.
Oh, that's a great idea. I mean, I was thinking of it more of I've definitely like, I've been working with, we have a member who's just joined and she's doing our social and she's, young and has a 3-year-old and like, so and she's familiar with this kind of work. So, from her, her career but, so I've been thinking of it more like she was thinking about it as fundraising, but we actually have our annual giving is very good. Like we get enough money every year with that. But so I was thinking about it of getting people more aware of like, oh yeah, donate to the Friends. If you donate to the Friends, you're a member of the Friends, and then you can show up to meetings and as a recruiting, but that's a great idea of asking businesses to come. So
It's so valuable. Part of it, they're doing it in the time. They need it.
they're into it. It's like a thing. Like it's a thing that young people do. Like it's like they post it on Instagram and it's like a cool trunk. Like, and so it's a chance to, and I think people enjoy taking part in the activity. So it's a fundraising, so it's not, I don't know. I mean, why people would want to do it.
I think it's an opportunity to raise funds for the library and I think before it, and it seems like you
Yeah,
provide
yeah.
the COI and
Okay.
we look forward to participating in what ways we can.
Okay,
We got some
and
time
then
to
it
plan.
won't be until October, so I can keep, and I'll be working with Parks and Rec and doing the proposal and anybody else that I need to. So
Wonderful.
thank you very.
Thank you so much. Although the individual I think who was here to speak about solar panels has walked away, but in the interest of being consistent, let's do that one next, and then we'll go to the top of the book. Solar panels is tab G. Well, first, let's get an update from Mike on the solar panels, then we'll talk about the ribbon cutting. Thank you.
So the solar panel project is, everything's pretty much installed. We have a scheduled electrical shutdown on the 14th. To switch things over at the Public Works Garage. The work here has been completed. We did have an inspection, 2 minor items that they have to correct, which I believe they intend to do on the 14th. And then we just await a Pico interconnection and we would be live. So we're very close to the finish line for the project is concerned.
Wonderful. We were approached by Joy Berge and the Philadelphia Energy Authority, who have a solar week going on the week of the 17th of this month. And they had an interest in conducting a ribbon cutting ceremony for the project. And so I've arranged with the county commissioner to come and present a ceremonial check to the township for the grant implementation award that we received. And do essentially a ribbon cutting on the installation of the solar panels. We had hoped that they would be live and throw the switch, if you will, but it's not quite live yet. So the ribbon cutting will be on the installation. Relatedly, on the same day and as part of those Solarize Greater Philadelphia events, Mike and I are going to sit on a webinar to speak on how we achieve this, and hopefully that will inspire other municipalities. And so Mike and Jamie and Craig have been working hard on helping to facilitate this activity, and hope to see you at the ribbon cutting, although it's attending on Thursday, 9:30. 9:30, sorry, for everyone. Oh my God.
Wednesday the 19th.
Wednesday the 19th, 9:30.
It was gonna be on.
It was going to be on Thursday at 10.
Yep.
I was just going to say that was the next.
When we get out of there.
matter.
Yep.
Go for it.
So yeah, Ron Celentano, who is our solar consultant and has been very helpful. He comes bi-weekly and he does a job inspection and serves as our own representative. He had suggested some time ago that once everything is up and operational, we may want to conduct solar imaging for the drone to just
see if there's any hot spots on any individual panels. Everything could appear to be functioning fine, but this thing apparently we use thermal imaging to determine whether there's hot spots on a panel or cold spots where it's not functioning properly. And that we can get it, if we do it, when we first energize, we'll be within the warranty period, we can get them replaced. And even if everything's working perfectly, it'll serve as a good baseline for us that if you should choose to do it 5 years down the road, you'll know how well or not everything is functioning at that time. It seems like for a project of our size, the investment is relatively minor and there's two, that's for one building and then, yeah, $1,625 per building. It's like $3,300. Would have been like a manufacturer's defect. Is this service covered under our contract with them? So it's almost like when you get a new HVAC system put into a building of this nature, commissioning normally falls under their contract, but balancing is usually done by a third-party independent firm to make sure that the system's balanced properly. So this is not unlike something like that.
Is that because they should, conflict of interest? Yeah, versus what.
Potentially, I mean, yes, exactly. Like you want to have that other set of eyes on there and making sure that it's done properly. But in this instance, we probably could have written this into our specs and Ron admittedly said, if I was thinking about it, I probably would have written it into the contract. Just like we have written in our contract, they're going to help us out filling out the investment tax credit. We could have incorporated that into our RFP, but I didn't know anything.
I'm not sure.
We would have paid for it either way, and maybe with a markup on it then. Yeah, I don't know whether they have the thermal capacity on it. I know this particular company does. Some of the photos that you have in there, the installer did provide to us because they have growth.
But it does make sense for the department.
Yeah, they only,
Under warranty. Yep.
Second question. You said hotspot, so is it in fact the hotspot within a panel or is it?
No, within a panel.
Within a panel.
Within a panel. It'll
Within a
show the
panel.
hotspots within the an individual panel. I actually have I have an example of a full report that if you're interested, I'll send it to you. It's a lot of material, but yeah, I'll send it electronically. It's actually pretty cool.
yeah, my only question was just whether it was common practice to do this as a follow-up, and it sounds like it'd be equivalent to balancing an AC unit. All right,
Is it more effective to do it really hot out and sunny? Or is it really? We may not go to that. You do it very fine. But if there is a fatal to do it, about training.
I would be guided by Ron in that regard about when to appropriate time to do that. He's got some experience
sounds fine, doesn't seem like I have an issue with it, sounds appropriate. All right, at this time, are there any other public comments before I move right into the agenda?
Is that something you do?
Yeah, the expenditure.
All right, we're going to go, I mean, not that you can't speak, if you remain here on any item, we're going to go right to the top of the agenda at this time and go right down the list. We actually only had one item before the township manager's report, so you're back online. That's you.
To go rather swiftly. Just a note on the 2027 budget, it's budget time. So the budget memos and a budget calendar went out to all the department heads. Made a note for you, the meetings that'll be coming up. First one is going to be
a budget meeting with the fire company, the ambulance association, and the planning commission was invited. They've already informed me that they're good as long as we give them the money for the community planning. So they probably won't be in attendance. And then you've got a budget workshop meeting on October 21st. That's a special meeting at 7 p.m. here. And your budget presentation would be on November 11th, part of your November 11th business meeting. And the budget hearing and adoption would be on December 9th, which is your regular business meeting as well. And then September meeting, we talked about this briefly last month. Labor Day falls on your workshop meeting. You have a preference for rescheduling it to Tuesday after Labor Day, or combining everything in one on Wednesday? Michelle's presentation. Yeah, we've done it both ways, so it's, it's really your preference. Whatever Jeff wanted to combine them when Jeff was the president, but then when we had Baird or whoever, we had two separate ones, and it's happened in the same way in the past.
I mean, I said I would rather combine them, and I would say the caveat is if there's something that we, we can always kick a formal business meeting item to the next month should we need to. I hate to not give people time to digest the material.
I will give you.
So let's combine it for once.
How does it work with the timing if we negotiate? Wrong.
Everything goes at one time. So like if we had.
You vote as we go.
You vote as you go.
All right. well,
You'll
let's
just have to
combine.
quick pick on your feet.
Right. I think we can do that. All right, sounds good. We're
Andy will
going
have to keep
to
thinking.
combine it on Wednesday. We're going to do a combo workshop business meeting for September.
Next item,
Could I humbly suggest that in the informal dress code policy?
Sure, no problem.
Second.
I will say
I think you already did that.
I've unofficially, and let's just make it official that I have no qualms about anyone dressing howsoever you wish for the business. Well, that's a good point. Is it a 7 o'clock meeting then for next month?
I'd have to advertise it, but I could if you wanted. For 7.
As opposed to 7:30, you're gonna have to.
Okay.
I don't know if we can start it any earlier. I think that would throw people off.
Well, I'll make an announcement.
You would have had to advertise Tuesday anyways.
Yes.
All right, beautiful Springfield.
So we'll announce that.
Okay, great.
Beautiful Springfield. Mark was out and at it again. He identified 9 additional properties for the Beautiful Springfield Award. Photos are in your materials.
Great,
He kind of got into it.
wonderful. Have we had any more responses?
Oh, yeah.
Great.
Everybody writes back.
Wonderful.
We're excited that they got selected. Next item is the crosswalk at Mermaid and Elm. I think Ed saw the guys out there putting, they refreshed the crosswalk up, and then they put some advanced warning line. It's sort of like the Philly has in front of the speed bump, but they just kind of call attention in the pavement to the upcoming crosswalk.
I found it. I thought of it. That's all those things. Slow down. I slowed down there.
Brendan's volunteered.
Next item is the Verizon cable television franchise renewal. We have a 5-year contract with them for the use of our rights of way to lay cable and BIOS for their cable television. And that's coming up for renewal in 2029. seems like just yesterday we did it. The reason that they give notice so far in advance is the Telecommunications Cable Act is a very deliberate process. It sets forth their intention to enter into negotiations for it. You could take a more expedited process, which is basically just an update to the agreement that we have. There's not going to be a lot of updates that can be done, because the system's filled out. There's really no gaps in coverage. And you can't regulate the internet under the Telecommunications Cable Act. You can only regulate cable television. So there's not a whole lot of additional things we can get there. But in any event, Scott Denlinger from Andy's firm is going through the process right now, actually with Phoenixville. They're a little further along. He's agreed to help us out with it.
So a shorter process as opposed to a longer
Very
statutory
more
process,
costly.
more costly process. Sounds like a smart idea. Just to be clear, there's nothing substantive outside of renewal, essentially.
Yeah. So we already have confidence. So we have two in town. There's one other. Not the cable television. Nobody's playing cable anymore. Everybody's switching over to internet, which is unregulated.
The next item is
Next item
executive.
is going to be executive.
The next item after that's also executive.
No, the
No,
next item
that's
is,
not
I
executive,
just wanted to call your attention to the fact that the 2026 through 27 budget for the Commonwealth included some legislation that provides a cost of living adjustment to retired teachers, police, and firefighters. It's in the form of a monthly COLA benefit that would be paid in 3 different tiers. It's $75 if they're retired at least 5 years, $150 if retired at least 10 years, and $300 if retired at least 20 years, and that's per month. Now, fortunately, there's an offset for a COLA that we have been paid through a municipal pension plan. We've been paying a COLA that's incorporated in our pension plan for the police officers. So it looks like we only have one retired officer that would be eligible to receive the benefit. He's 88 years old. Good for him. He's going to get it for a while, hopefully for a long while. We also have one other individual who is vested terminated. He left on employment early to take another law enforcement position with the county at the time. He may be eligible, but Joe Dugal, our actuary, has reached out to the Auditor General to get guidance as to whether it applies to them or not. We think it does, but we don't want to go ahead and pay it and then it not being approved. Then we'd have to get the money back if we get dinged on all it. So we approved it for the one retired officer. So.
You said this is already.
Yes, and that's us, although it's unbudgeted, and our next valuation may be a little wonky. But fortunately, it's just one officer, so it's not going to be too good. But yeah, I'm not expecting. Yeah, the money is recovered throughout the week. Not skilled.
Not yet.
Historical commission. We spent a lot of time talking about an inventory of historic resources. Here's the Historical Society, independent body, has made a recommendation to the Historical Commission that they focus on those properties that are listed in the National Register of Historic Places and properties that have been consistently identified as historic resources on our comprehensive plan over the last 20 or 30 years. And just start with those as your historic resources for now, and then build on it over time. They've sort of acknowledged that it can be a very costly endeavor, and so hopefully that is good guidance that they have. Thoughts on that?
No, I will hear what they have to say at our next meeting. It won't be till next week.
Open space referendum, we had a presentation from Natural Lands a couple of months ago, and about a ballot referendum process that they can help us out with if we wanted to enact up to a 0.25% increase on the earned income tax that would be dedicated towards open space preservation and improvement of that open space. So they are recommending that it's a year process. So they could, the latest they could start helping us out with it with any confidence would be in January. Susie suggested that maybe we want to have a vote on that next month if you're so inclined.
Yeah, I just think that we've talked about it for some time. I've been interested, have not really received much in the way of negative feedback or any feedback, to be honest, but I mean, it's been just openly discussed for a long time, and more than anything, we've had a lot of positive interest in ensuring we get this out there. And the sooner we get it out there and just and essentially ascertain what the residents wish to do, the sooner we can proceed one way or the other. I mean, I don't think guesses, even if the residents say this is what we want, there's a process after that as well.
Yeah, so the first step is gonna be an ordinance, to get it onto a ballot, and then the ballot is really like everybody's opportunity to say yea or nay. And you have a letter in the material from the Environmental Advisory Commission that is in favor of it. Because you do investment.
Yeah, I just don't want to belabor it, unless someone has something specific that we want to talk about on that matter, or to flesh out, if you will. And something moving forward.
We've invited the, Little League softball, the teams that are coming out on Wednesday and be recognized for, their advancement, I guess,
The states,
the states.
just to confirm that we're all good. I think we had the last email.
Yes.
Confirmation.
Just for, confirm that members of both groups be present, they, beginning to sort of the blood.
Okay, yes.
All of
Wonderful. I think we're gonna,
That we bring up.
yeah, For the team. Something for the team. Yeah, and I did check in with baseball, and they did not put a state, so that was a rotation. However, they did have a runner-up in districts. Rec center.
It's gonna get the brief update on the recreation center project, so on the 21st of July, we gave us, kind of presentation related to the planning commission. The planning commission seems to be very appreciative of the work that's been put into that project to date, and kind of really relied there. They weren't asked to provide a recommendation for or against anything, but just the public process. There were a couple of neighbors that were present, and then were indeed, no opposition or anything. They were, pleased to learn that we were gonna take any trees out, on the law beach property, and so that was good. Next step, we have a page count review on August 18th, which is a detail of the please by please on the documents with the construction managers and architects to identify anything that's in there that, you know, might be of concern. Hopefully the construction managers will point out everything that it's not familiar with reading the plan, to be aware of. Jim has a copy of the big plan, that he and even if them go over, in advance of that meeting, so. That would be helpful. Anybody wants to be a part of it? More than welcome. 8:30.
Like, come up with, is there anything about that? Yeah, like, from the second value engineering meeting, about?
Yeah.
There's two other questions. The one, which is a kind of the regarding used to put it on. So at the previous meeting, we talked about the committee, and I,
We don't want to.
we don't want to have to,
Yeah.
the worst thing that I can.
Right.
What was the nature of
Yeah, I'm not sure that they took them out.
I thought it was decided the other way. You know,
Yeah, that we were gonna keep that. I thought it was,
big one.
I think it was the Armstrong tie,
It was not, the same thing.
yeah,
This one was like 55,000 of the public company. One, it is color coded.
okay. Right.
And I know we did an alternate with the epoxy floor, but I thought it was pretty set on the, for the maintenance thing. We didn't have those.
I do, but it was gonna go the wrong direction. It was gonna go up. So the way we have it in there, we have the tile as the base, and then we have the epoxy floors as an alternate to see what in fact that real cost might be.
So you still want to do it, so you can get a better.
Yeah, get a better sense.
Some think it would be less, because it's less labor.
I would 100% think it'd be that. 100%. The cost that they had in there for those 6 restrooms was way, well, it's 20 grand.
This is just the option, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I think that number is really, that's,
But even if it's even, you still want to cost.
I would.
The fewer grout lines, the
Question.
better.
Yes, exactly. Living with these 5 floors, especially through the winter, and knowing that that building is going to be such high traffic, I would definitely investigate that long and hard.
Any other questions on rec center? All right. Next item is an executive. And that concludes the manager's report, I believe.
Yep, well.
All right, any questions on the bill listing this month at this time? Nothing at this time. The zoning hearing board, we have one application. And I think because this has been in litigation before, that could be an executive item. Is that my understanding?
I think it's unrelated. Yeah, it's totally
Okay.
unrelated. The question is, do you guys wanna send in there, make a lot of noise, ask questions, find in that, or we talked earlier, so this is an application, of the Orland Market. They wanna put in seating into the existing convenience store. In order to get into compliance with the Pennsylvania Liquor Control Board, so that they can maintain an E-license for the sale of beer, at the deli license, I guess we call it. We're very confused because they've had a license at that establishment since 1953 or 1951, 53, I think, 53. So we're kind of confused as to why now all of a sudden the seating is required, by the LCD. Now, when they put the seating into the convenience store, it now becomes a restaurant, or at least that portion of the building becomes a restaurant, and the restaurant parking obligation is much higher than it is for a retail store. They don't have any parking to talk about to begin with, so this really puts them into a bind and have to put them in front of the community board. But it all comes back to why the seating. So Amy's gonna reach out to the attorney and try and find out like, what happened with the license.
The first example, the seating.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and the LCD let us know about that, and we cut that down very quickly.
Can you reach out to them before the
Yeah.
because, based on the discussion, it's clear that,
Yeah.
And the parking issue come. Instead of going through it, let's see what we can come with, because I would say, as is, I would say.
It's in safekeeping apparently. So I think there was an issue with perhaps with the seating being put in the basement, and I think LCD said, we're gonna take this and put it in safekeeping until the situation is straightened out. And it sounds like the way to get it out of safekeeping would be to install the 30 seats. But I don't know for sure. I mean, I wouldn't.
I think we need 3.
I think it's 30.
30.
Yeah, 30. You know, how when you're, you know, how the new.
Where would they put that? Yeah, I don't think they could do that through the zoning hearing board anyway.
Okay.
I mean, I
That's-
feel,
that's
I
one of the
trust our
items.
zoning hearing board to adjudicate.
That's one of the items of relief, I think, is a variance for the parking. They don't have the parking.
To install 30 seats.
Yeah, correct, 30 seats. So, I mean, the way I've been thinking about this is, you know, how when they build the new Wawas and if they sell beer out of the Wawa, you always see the seats there.
Yeah.
Because that's a new LCD requirement. You have that type of license to sell beer, you're supposed to install the seats for the requirement. The interesting fact here is that they've been doing that here since 1953. So why
would
why
they
is
have-
LCD now requiring this? Why aren't they entitled to it, you know? By virtue of the fact that they've been there pre-existing operating in that license for 70 years.
So we
So I
need,
don't know what's happened there. So I can
we are
try and find that
inclined
out.
to oppose, but I need to find more information and have a conversation. with them. And
Yeah, the question. You'd be good to know.
Yeah, what's going on? Why are they? But I think they have any license, but why are they now being required?
When they did the basement, I thought it was the understand. Experience.
Yeah.
Where would you put 30 seats?
Well, they have a section
I
there.
know, but that's.
It's just crammed in. I think you should have seen the basement. There's a park table. Holding a chair.
All right, well, we have a path forward on that. Recycling report, any questions? Barring none, we have the EAC. We have a situation where someone previously, or one of the associate members previously said they were not going to move their associate membership to a full membership, but have now decided they would like to be a full member. And then we have a couple individuals then who would be coming to interview for the vacancy next month. We have to approve moving Mr. Shimonek to a full member. Is that right?
But that's really.
If that's our desire.
That's part of those things.
Ben's been working hard.
Outstanding.
Yeah, I think that's wonderful that he's decided to doing more work. Yeah, that'd be great. All right, great. But then that doesn't belie that we will still have individuals to interview with us next month. For the associate, on the double up meeting.
Yeah, do you want to do that? Do you want to?
Um,
There's no urgency. It's in cinema.
yeah, there's no urgency. I mean, I feel bad, but
Special meeting.
well, let's see if they'll do it in October, just because it's gonna be such a long meeting. Yeah, and it's less fun to do with that type of urgency. And where there is no urgency. Is that okay?
Yeah, I think, well, I mean.
And those individuals
Right,
still
they
participate.
communicate to them.
Please continue to attend.
Yeah, see.
Absolutely.
Because honestly, even if they get appointed as an associate, they're gonna be doing the same thing. I think leaving, not really, they can still.
We have lots of people who attend all the time, without good, which. Kind of. But another.
Wonderful. We've already talked about the solar project, but I hope we'll see you there on Wednesday, the 19th at 9:30 a.m. for ribbon cutting. Oh, and I should also say that to make this event even more interesting, there will be tables at the library, a public education event at the library, big room from 9 to 11, to help individuals learn more about solar for your own homes, so that you can go there, learn a little bit about solar for yourself. Come check out our ribbon cutting, see what we've been able to accomplish here. And just a reminder, we're payback on that should be within 3 years, potentially. Well, we're green on that. All right, thank you. Next is our public safety committee. We have a public safety forum held, to be held on Thursday, September 17th. It's on preventing vehicle theft and theft from vehicles. We've had quite a couple of very wonderful forums. I kind of thought, and I think narrow is the right word here that Mike put in here, that I thought the topic might be a bit narrow. And perhaps we can move up our, well, one, I don't know if it needs a full forum. And if we're in agreement, my suggestion might be to move up the December topic, which is crimes against the elderly and care dependent individuals, including common scams. And perhaps make a different topic for December. And I did have an idea, but I wanted to, part one, unless someone really wants to do the topic of preventing thefts from vehicles. Not yet.
Yeah, there are thought that as I mentioned in my, probably my mind, but we need to kind of be really have those incidents about happening.
Might I suggest for that, just more public outreach in general on that, because it is that time of year in the next month and a half. In the meantime. All right, so maybe we go back to the police department and let them know if it's all right to move up the December topic, which my understanding is that Chief is an expert on that topic and teaches that course in other places, as I recall. No, he teaches the course. Different expertise. Might I suggest, and maybe we'll talk with the department about it, in December, as a part of this public safety forum series, perhaps we try out a state of the police, something that allows the police to kind of tell us what's important, what's been going on in a holistic way, and it's sort of be a nice wrap up for the year. I know when I digest the monthly police materials, it can be overwhelming just for me, just digesting it on a month-to-month basis. I can imagine for the regular member of the public, it would be hard to digest. It'd be nice to have a little capsule of what the year looked like. Maybe it was, 80% vehicle theft, and that's what we really got to work on as a community. And we just think we're very fortunate to be able to perhaps have an opportunity to do that. So that's my suggestion. Maybe we could talk to Chief and Lieutenant about it. I would love that, unless someone has a different suggestion. All right, thanks, Beth. Next is the Cheltenham Avenue corridor study, which we went through at length. It sounds like we still have time. I feel like there's a lot to digest. And to your point, Beth, whoa, what if we had a stoplight in the middle of that road? And when do I make that remark? Email that out to them right away. Trunk or treat seems like no issue. Skate park, we could talk about it again if we like. But thanks so much, everyone, for narrowing that down and coming to the vote next month, which we shall see how it turns out. For the record, I thought a letter would just make it more concrete and allow them to move forward. But if this is fine, that's fine. The next is the Walnut Ave project. We got an update from Tim on that. I think we should maybe move or reconvene once Tim has a formal update or maybe on bid specs, or I don't know what material to provide.
I don't think that they're gonna really wanna look at the big spec for the.
I don't think so, but
But I think
but they may. The neighbors are really interested in what abatement is done. They often. I don't
There'll be a
know.
lot of verbal, like I can share them, the specs with them now, it's very boring, but
Okay.
and they'll actually be on the website.
Well,
I think
whatever
they're
is
gonna be more
appropriate.
interested in the plan and the phasing, yeah,
Okay.
when we're gonna see things happen.
Well, I know we asked earlier and he said, ready right now for an update, but I defer to when there's enough material. to
Let me
update.
talk to him about when we will have a plan.
Wonderful.
We don't have to sit down again.
Great. Next, we have the trails and connectivity plan, which I think is sort of a meaty topic. This is stemming from Thad. Thad, do you want to prime it up and then hand it off to Craig?
Sure, or I mean, we could just have a, there was some stuff sketchy. Some of this and a few. We thought that it's rather than as well as discussion about the putting in stuff. So do you want to just summarize that, Frank? So, socially, part of myself, Jimmy, and Ian Hammond, got together on the 22nd. And we just reviewed some of the trail and connectivity projects that we completed up to date. So these are the trails and connectivity plans started in probably before COVID, but it really didn't get approved until 2023. We did highlight some of the projects that were being worked on there. So you'll see a list of some of the projects going back in 2021 that got installed. And up to most recently, some of the stuff that has occurred also in the 2026. So Tim mentioned tonight about WB Roads, getting the trail in over the Falls Lane school the school property. Just recently, we did find out that Tim made contacts with somebody with Bowman Engineering to get an application in for us to get access to the peak, to the PennDOT property. That's next to Sandy Run Park to connect over to the Penn Manor property there as well. So there are some things going on that we're doing that aren't very costly. And we've been trying to work on that end. I also included some of the pictures, of the cross hatching that was just put up in the crosswalks up at Mermaid Lane. Commissioner Goldberg had provided us some photos of some particular options to slow down traffic. And some of these bump outs may hinder stormwater. If you put planters out there, They could be just, they could actually, somebody might go ahead and hit them. So you have some maintenance to have to worry about them as well. So we kind of thought maybe we'd keep away from those. And Sergeant Clark, from some of his information, said a lot of the slow signage or the greenway signage isn't always, people aren't really receptive to that. But he did suggest investing in 2 more radar signs. So I put a quotation in there for 2 more signs. That would bring the complement of signs that the PD has currently up to 6. So you can strategically place them throughout the township and utilize those as well. And in the last year or so, myself, and Jim Murphy have been in contact with the Crescent Trail, the Friends of the Crescent Trail, and they are looking to get support from us to put an application to PICO so they can start doing some planning to pick up the trail at Stanton Avenue and to bring it into the back of Mermaid Park. So there's an application that they would like us to fill out on their behalf because PICO would be more receptive for the application to come from us versus from them. The Friends of Crescent Trail did receive from the William Penn Foundation, I believe it's a $30-some thousand grant to start on some of the preliminary design phases of that as well, just from that portion. So that's pretty much an update on some of the stuff that we have going on right now. We also are going to be doing the update to Pennsylvania Avenue and Bridge Street through that joint program with Upper Dublin. In addition to the grant we got for the major project, and that I did apply for an Arley grant through PennDOT as well to go ahead and replace the traffic signal at Bridge and Pennsylvania Avenue. That's the oldest traffic signal we have in the township. So we get a grant to replace that, and it is something that is also part of that whole project on Pennsylvania Avenue, but it would be something that is not covered under that particular grant. That's why Mike suggested that I go ahead and I'll put it for the Arley.
Thank you for all that hard work. I just to frame, Rob, Thad, and myself, we talked, especially as they came on board this year, about what priorities they might have, we might have that they could bring attention to. And one of the things we've talked about for probably a couple of years is that the trails and connectivity plan and many plans find themselves sitting on a desk. Well, how do we get it off the desk and into action and into reality? And so we wanted to bring that to the fore, and that and Rob worked on a memo outlining, some ideas such as temporary installations to try out different strategies that we haven't maybe tried out before. And that's why staff has gotten together to provide us a good, I would say, level set on what has already happened that comports with the trail and connectivity plan. And I think they worked, handily throughout the summer to create this level set that Craig, so nicely just outlined. I think that's much appreciated. I would say a couple things. I think there's a couple requests in here, so I feel like I want to be sure we don't miss any of those. And I also think that this is a good kind of ongoing activity to do, this committee that exists. I think it'd be nice if, let's say, if Bob and Rob were to at least, or all of us could be aware of when you're meeting as a trails and connectivity implementation team, comes together. Maybe you're meeting at some regular interval. We can know about it, so we can pop in and sort of be a part of that. I think it's another element of creating the type of community you want to be. Obviously, we talked about safety, we talked about greenifying our community, and all of that so that we can connect throughout them, walk, bike, and drive safely throughout them. Again, that's one recommendation I would have. And then I want to be sure that I asterisk a couple of requests. I don't miss anything in here. One, for example, being the radar requests. I think that's great to put in the budget for one. I think time and time again, we've had so many conversations about traffic studies and what interventions would be effective. And I find that police often say this is actually one of the most effective, is the ability to move the radar signs throughout town. So I think that's a easy thing to incorporate across town and then increase our decrease their workload by increasing our ability to offer that intervention. That's why. I don't want to miss any of the others, Craig. So if you have any other that we need to approve, let's do that.
One of the things we had was, in the transit connectivity plan, there was, one option of somehow making the connectivity from Marlow to, Chirivante. And I went on the county website and we checked out the ownerships of some property in there, and there might be, a way we can go ahead and do that. I would just need the board's permission to go ahead and maybe get Tim involved and see how we can go ahead and do that. So there might be some engineering costs involved on that, but just to investigate into it.
Great.
I think there'll be some definite engineering costs, maybe starting with a walk with them through there, but you can navigate it now on foot.
But now it's the most rush.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Jim, have you navigated this path?
Yeah. And also then include getting an easement from Pico to use the lower end of the Pico property as well. And implementing some of that, but that's something we can just, look at it. We start from one side, go to Pico property, start from the other side, go to the Pico property.
Yeah, something all within our overall locus of control. All right, great. Okay, that's.
Yeah, I just had a few questions.
Sure.
And again, thanks for your work on this. And I think the radar project is great and about more of a footprint being able to, or whatever fact that may speed. In terms of the trails plan, and just I think that connection between Charlotte and Marlow is great. I'm just curious. What was the rationale for that plan as opposed to, I actually have the trails plan in front of me. I'm just curious what was the rationale for that one as opposed to, I know there's a lot of different projects in the.
I think the reason we picked that was because I think your email said to start with something would be lower cost, and without a whole lot of cost as far as any infrastructure or anything like that. There's really, that would be pretty minimal on that side, and that particular project was more as a low cost project.
Okay. Yeah. And I certainly welcome the opportunity to you talk to this group and be part of the process and talk to Commissioner Goldberg as well. I think you would have that, would be open to that as well. So, is there a plan to have another meeting at some point?
Yeah, we were just looking for some feedback from the commissioners, and then see feedback certainly how regular meetings.
Okay. Yeah. No, I'm all in favor, and let's get those meetings started.
Yeah, I like that it's going to be an ongoing meeting, and basically we're going to see that plans don't just sit on the shelf. We're moving them into action, and we'd love to get, figure out a cadence so we can get a regular update on that. Maybe you and Rob could work with the staff on the appropriate cadence that the public would expect that. So.
I'm not sure whether we have. I think we have a trail that's kind of pretty page. We could probably put on there like
These are projects that are in those things that are stuff. And I think it's also good to see some of the projects that the township did not pay for that we ended up having to.
Oh, yes. It'd be nice to see maybe on the trail page, which I know is still live, underneath just sort of a timeline, points in time, and that can just be continuously scrolled and added to as new projects that fit the bill come online. Yeah, that'd be really wonderful. Wonderful. Well, go ahead.
One about first question. Do those keep data? Yeah. Just real-time speed method. So that came up in the conversation basically.
Yeah, that was the thought.
Maybe, is there any examples of the remake that? two questions, the things that they, facing. The greenway that works.
I would say, having said on the, and I know you went to speak, Mike, my understanding of a greenway is that it is a pathway that already naturally exists. There are roadways that form a pathway, and that what can be done is they could be enhanced with signage or other type of implementations that kind of identify them. Yeah, they're one step above, I think, maybe it is a neighborhood greenway, right? So for example, Montgomery is a neighborhood greenway because there's no sidewalks, but everyone knows how to use it as a slower pace type of pathway. Thought was to identify, right, and officially designate it as such was one idea.
Yeah, I mean, I don't have an example of one that's already existing. I mean, if you look at the plan, there's a couple that are called out, one which is also that I think in the plan refers to that as a relatively low cost and no burden one, as well as Lorraine Avenue, which may be another one as well. But you know, this seems like areas that potentially they're both pretty good.
But these are the official, I think, definitions by the planning. Yeah, maybe I'm mistaken here, but my memory is that they tend to be ones without sidewalks that everyone already knows how to use as pathways. Right. But maybe because it has, I guess maybe that's one avenue, maybe ones with sidewalks that are regularly utilized. I mean, I think that's something that could be discussed in this committee.
Yeah, it's not shallow, but yeah, I mean, there's definitely a good starting point. Another question, can you remind us, what's the time constraint, especially now, or something that would happen?
Yeah, they have to have a environmental review first, and then they get the field view. We're looking at like 2.5 years now.
We can't do our thing.
All right. Well, I believe.
We have one other thing in there. You have that request from the Friends of the Crescent Trail to submit that application to PICO for the use of a portion of that right of way. I think their thought is that nothing would happen immediately. But I guess the question for you is, but they would like to mow it, have an initial round of mowing and get rid of some invasive things so that it looks like it could be a usable trail. And that maybe the Public Works Department would pick up with mowing once a month, once every 2 months or something like that, until an actual trail is built somewhere down the line. The trail from Stenton to the back of the Mermaid Park, which is what they're looking at right now, really isn't connected to anything on Woodgate other than the access is through Mermaid Park. Because once you get to Stenton, it's a little grade and it's not they want to go a tunnel there eventually to get through. But the question remains if you are ready to take that leap and be the permittee or the sponsor for that.
I think you wrote in here suggesting that we execute an agreement setting forth our responsibilities. I think that's probably wise to do at this time, and
Maybe we talk to them about.
what's really necessary and what we're, and talk to Ian about what's really reasonable and feasible
Yeah.
also.
I have conversation with that as well. That provide a lot the fee that was built up inside as well, and the city's trying to keep it trail. Provided that the state officers are the office yeah, so he did share with me the license agreement with PICA that the city has. So I have a pretty good understanding of what the city signed off on, what their obligations are. The question is, what is the relationship? I don't know that there's a relationship between the Friends of the Crescent Trail and the city that memorializes their obligations with one another. And if we are interested in having something, whether they have one or not, that basically says if they, the township will do X, the Friends are set up to do Y. Yeah. Okay.
Anything else in this tab? All right, that concludes our book. We'll once again open a public comment if anyone has anything to say. Otherwise, we are going to be moving into executive session where I believe we have at least 3 executive sessions or matters to discuss. Thanks, everyone, for joining us and for sticking it out, Mary. Appreciate you, Mary, Dan. Good to see you. Thank you. Mary, was there anything